Here we go.
Storm's coming up, Annie. You better get home quick.
Yes, it is a stormy day here in Melbourne, and most of the country, there's like lightning bolts, and there's like thunder, and there's like rain, and there's all this really, really exciting stuff. Good old Thor up in the sky. He's getting his hammer. He's whacking the shit out of just about everything. G'day, fans. Welcome to another exciting episode of Rip It Off the Card. And I tell you what, how cool has everything been? Mr. Aaron, how you going, old son?
Yes, like you were saying, thunderbolts and lightning sounding like a Queen song, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very frightening indeed. Yes. Sorry, I cut you off. I had to complete the quote. Yeah, I'll cut you off. What were we going to say? Sorry?
It looked like an apocalyptic type storm rolling over towards us this afternoon, and then it sort of petered out and went away to nothing.
Yeah, exactly right. I love it when you get the thunder going, because when people say, "What's that thunder?" and you go, "Mate, it's God's subwoofers kicking in." He's obviously watching a bit of like Star Wars: A New Hope and whatever. It's a Star Destroyer passing overhead and it's just rumbling like mad. Got to put a sci-fi spin on just about everything that's happening in the world. So, how you going, Mr. Aaron? What's been happening in the big wide world for you, old son?
Well, I think, what is the first of my Christmas presents to myself turned up today. I was just saying before that we look at calendars after Christmas and you get the El Cheapo ones and you're always stuck with what's left. And this year I decided I want to get one that I liked for me. And even though we did Doctor Who last week and we're not going to keep going back, I got the art of Chris Achilleos Who art poster that has all the old book covers from the 70s. So every month I will be able to jot down all my important occasions like Colin's party or your barbecues or the releases of certain movies on my Doctor Who vintage calendar. So I'm pretty happy with that one.
I thought at the very least you'd be like jotting down the next episodes of these shows, because you just forget when they're on and you go, "Oh, I didn't have it written down, so I didn't turn up for it." So,
wrong way. With Jodie Whittaker, I try to forget.
Oh, gee, that's not very friendly. Like Greg's all very excited. I like the fact the show's only been on the air for less than a minute or two, and already Doctor Who's come up. It's like, oh my God, you're killing me. Bob has asked, where did you get those from?
I actually got that directly from Chris Achilleos's online shop, and it was quite interesting because I paid for them, and then an email turned up in my inbox from Chris Achilleos, who is one of my heroes from growing up, saying, because you ordered 3 of them, can you chuck another £4 postage to cover it? So I was like, yes, I can. And by the way, I love your artwork and I have for 40 years. So that was an interesting one.
Very, very, very good stuff. All right, so the most important thing is we're now into December. Summer has kicked in, even though you wouldn't know it by looking outside. We've only got 3 episodes left until the end of the year, the end of the season, the end of everything that's going on. So next week is obviously our second half of our Return of the Jedi conversation, which we're starting tonight. The 2 weeks, a couple of weeks after that, of course, is our big Christmas special, which you do not want to miss, which means we've got 1 episode in the middle that we need to sort of fill. Now, we've got our own ideas, but we thought we would just chuck this out there to everybody who's watching at the moment. No Star Wars, no Doctor Who. So you watch no Greg King's. I almost hear Greg King, you're crying his eyes out even as I speak. Are there any topics that people would like us to cover off? Not saying that we're going to do it, but we'd like to give you the option of providing your input and your thoughts. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron?
December, or as I like to call it, Endgame. Yes, so we have a couple of ideas of what we could do, but if anyone comes up with a better idea, we're quite happy to listen and maybe incorporate it into the show.
You watch, somebody will say, "Oh, they should do an episode," as in like we do an episode just on ourselves. So, oh my God, imagine that.
Blake 7 marathon from Russell. Blake 7 was one of those I was looking at for underperforming franchises with not much merchandise, but it's probably not enough for an entire show.
Oh yeah, it's Blake 7. You mean it must be like saying with an Irish accent. It's Blake 7, not Blake. It's Blake 7.
That's the starship that has Cock and Spurk driving around in it.
Colin suggested Flash Gordon. That is actually quite a good one because Flash Gordon spans decades. In many ways. So there you go. The Vile, always wanting to violate the Universal Monsters. So there's something about that. And I'll tell you what, when it comes to Universal Monsters, we're not just talking about Aaron and myself just running around the world either. So, sorry, maybe you'll say something?
I was going to say, I wanted to do one on poster art, and some of the Universal poster art is absolutely fantastic. So that's one of the ideas we were looking at.
Very, 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 very good. So there you go. And Rusky Babes has said he can help with FG collectibles. I was thinking, what the hell's FG? Then I realized he meant Flash Gordon, because I thought FG can mean a lot of different things. Moneybag Sullivan is talking about Transformers. Well, when it comes to more than meet the eye, it's better than looking at the two of us, that's for sure. So, yes. What do you reckon?
So there's a lot of good ideas there. Some of them I had in the back of my head. Some of them are totally new, but I'm sure even if we don't use them in a couple of weeks' time, they will be in season 2.
There we go. And Jimmy's actually come out with Lord of the Rings. So what'll happen, guys, just so you know, in a couple of weeks' time, when we get to that magical episode, we'll say we listened to what everybody's opinions were, and we said, stuff the lot here. We've done something else. So
we have done if Doctor Who was in the Star Wars universe.
Well, I mean, Tom Baker is, because he voices the Bendu in Star Wars Rebels. Oh, nerd. How good is that? So, yes. And Gavin has said about Go Optimus Prime. Don't use the word Optimus or anything optimal related at the moment, because it's Omnicron, isn't it? That's causing all the issues at the moment. So there you go. Very good. Oh, here we go. Look, we've opened up a can of worms here. Rusky Babes has said about going to suggesting vintage collectibles, either pre-60s or 70s stuff in the 50s or earlier movies. Oh, my God. There's a whole convention just there, isn't it? So, and Daniel has said Babylon 5. So nobody has said anything twice. Everything's completely different. So what do you reckon there, dude?
Of course, pre-60s hosted by Robbie the Robot.
Absolutely love it. Anyway, we'll keep those suggestions coming, and we will see where we end up. Oh, William Phoenix 5. Yeah, good on you. All right. So as you know, we have people who come into the store usually every week, and then we get some photographs with them, because they're like the coolest people in the universe. And last week or the week before, we actually had Michael Herbert, who's watching the show right now, who popped into the store. And the first thing that Michael did, as soon as he walked into the store, he said, "Give me that shirt. I'm hankering out to have a bit of dag on the shirt, so to speak, or close to the body, as it were." And for that reason, we were able to get this photograph. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
That's fantastic. He's always coming in asking for dats and cogs, and I always think that's an insult. But he was very kind to get into the shirt that we call the Super Spreader event now, because it's been worn by so many rioters over the entire lockdown. And it was great to see him actually be able to come in and catch up in person.
Yeah, I like this. Lies, I tell you, lies. It was not. Michael walked in and said, "Oh my God, give me the shirt, mate. He's just hankering." And we thought, well, if we must, we must. And I said, that's okay. We're just spreading the nerd, far and wide. And that's what it's all about. So absolutely awesome. So there you go. Hang on for a second. So Guy has mentioned that he's on YouTube tonight. I can't see everyone's comments. That's because, Guy, everybody else is commenting on Facebook at the moment. So we can see all the comments that are coming up, but you can't. You can only see what's on YouTube. So that's the reason why. So that's how it will go. So if more people turn up on YouTube, you'll be able to see them. But everybody else is on Facebook currently.
So you've got YouTube exclusively to yourself, Guy. You've got the total forum and our total attention.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, here we go. I like this one, the Vile. Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. Get in the Vile Zone. Absolutely awesome. And by the way, the Vile did send us through a fantastic picture today, which we're going to premiere on the Christmas show, which you're going to absolutely love. And Gavin has said, Worth Macquarie artwork. Once again, two people have not said the same thing. Everything's been completely different. So, poor old Aaron's going to have his brains mounting out your ears before the week's out. What do you reckon?
No, I think the more ideas, the better. We can have like a couple of shows on different topics, and everyone's ideas will be included eventually.
There you go. Space 1999. There's another one. So, very, very good. Good to see there's a lot of optimism out there. Some good ideas. So, well done. We need to move on. Otherwise, we'll never get stuff done on this particular show. So, it's time for a little bit of this. All right, we're talking collectibles as always. Mr. Aaron, what's been coming out, son?
Well, because it's coming into Christmas, I think a lot of the companies are ramping up what they're releasing. And there's, I think, 3 great toy lines that we're highlighting this week. I'm not sure what order they're in, so let's go to the first one. And it's RoboCop, and these are by NECA. And what I love about these are they're releasing 2 RoboCops at once. They're releasing a battle-damaged one with his repair chair and station that he sort of upgrades in, and you've got the shiny, well, it's not really chrome, I guess it's stainless steel version of RoboCop loaded with guns and weapons and the extra head and things like that. What I really love about this is action figures are good, but when they go that extra mile and give you some of the accessories, not just a gun, but actual chairs and tables and stuff to display them on, I always think it's a much better deal, because they're always, $40, $50 action figures. And when they give you accessories, they generally don't cost that much more.
What you need to do is put a tiny camera just inside his face and then film yourself going, ah, ah, ah. If you remember that from the movie. Oh, my God. Anyway, go on.
Well, they should give you a little tub of acid so you can throw it in your friend's face and watch them melt, just like the movie too. But I don't think they'll go that far. I'm only joking. Kids, don't throw acid in your friend's face unless you're playing Phantom of the Opera. Here is him with his head on. These are only the smaller scale versions, and to get the detail they've got onto the likenesses, I think they've done really well. What do you think of the likenesses, Dags?
Yeah, I think they've actually come out quite good, because when I saw them back up here, I thought from that angle it was hard to tell how well they got the jawline of his face. But when you look at them like that, they have actually come out quite good. And I'll tell you what's funny, since we've just dangled this carrot, saying to people, think of an idea for a show in a couple of weeks' time, Russell's still coming up on them. Vintage. He's in the zone. I absolutely love it. So there you go. And so is Moneybag Sullivan and Stargate. They're sitting there, brains are just going, what else can we submit? Oh, guys, let it go. We've sort of moved on. But
I'm surprised Russell isn't saying vintage model kits and everyone can send in examples of ones they've made themselves.
Yeah, no, very good. No, I like it. I think it's actually quite nice. And I do agree with you what you said earlier. I mean, being able to do displays like that definitely adds a lot of authenticity to it. The funny thing about this particular setup is you look at the distance between this machine and the desk, and how would you put a chair in there? It'd be a bit hard, wouldn't it?
I don't think he'd even sit in the desk if he were anyway, would he? He'd fit one leg under that desk.
Yeah, totally agree. And I'm trying to think, is that the red phone that just calls to God? But no, very, very groovy. No, I absolutely like it. And yeah, so if you get a chance to check it out, would you be getting this in the store at all? Is this the kind of thing you'd stock?
Generally, with all this stuff, this is new and it's coming out. We don't get a lot of new stuff. If anyone wants to pre-order it, we will order it in. Like we've pre-ordered all the Doctor Who figures. And here's some exclusive. This morning, they were not live, as in they hadn't come into Icon. This afternoon, they're green and live, which means they're in Australia, and we might even have them in the shop by the end of the week.
Very, very, very cool. No, good stuff. Okay, so if Robocop isn't your cup of tea, then there you go. This might be.
So I thought this was an amazing lot of figures too. Now, I thought these were a larger scale at first because the detail, the amount of the accessories, and how good they look is quite, I think, quite amazing. But these are, again, the same smaller scale. These aren't by NECA, but they're the same scale as sort of the Marvel Legends and things like that. And this is Batman 89. Now, they've done a really amazing job of Batman, and they give him a whole lot of accessories that seem to be screen accurate. So that gives you an idea of the scale, which I think is fantastic, because a lot of times people are saying to me, what is the scale? And I'm trying to say, oh, they're 1/16, the one. But when you have someone holding them like that, you know straight away what the size of the figure actually is. So they come with multiple heads, multiple hands, multiple accessories. But what I'm really impressed, not only are they doing Batman, but they're also doing the Joker. And there hasn't been a really good 89 Joker, as in the Jack Nicholson version, for quite a long time. He has the likeness rights to his features, so companies have to pay quite a bit to do this, and not a lot of companies have. In fact, this might be the first company I remember releasing them at this scale. And again, he comes with a lot of accessories, real cloth clothes, a really amazing sculpt of Jack Nicholson as the Joker's face, and lots of his wonderful toys from the actual movie. Now, Dags, you are a big Batman fan, bigger than the two of us, because you collected for a long time. What did you think of these figures?
I really like the Batman one. The interesting part, of course, is when you got scale is when you got cloth, and trying to get cloth to match the scale. And I think for allowing for the fact that it's you can't, unless the bigger the figure, the easier the cloth is easy to do. But in the photos, at least, it actually does look quite good. And with the Joker figure, I'm not particularly a big fan of the Joker, especially Jack Nicholson's version, but the likeness and, as you said, the recreation of what they've done here, you would put the two of them together, and like you've got in this photo right here, and they do actually come out really, really good. So, no, I think well done, good work.
So figures like this only come out about once a decade. They usually sell out. They're out for a little while, and then they sell out, and then they go for double and triple online. So if you're Batman fans, I'd track these down pretty quick before they sell out, and you have to find them on the secondary market. And again, if you want us to try and get them through the shop for you, we can do that.
I have to wind the conversation back a little bit. So Gavin asked this question while we're discussing Batman about the RoboCop stuff, about the original to the remake. So I don't think they had anything like this back when the original RoboCop days in the 80s, did they?
They did do a series of RoboCop figures. There weren't very many. And then there was a RoboCop cartoon in the 80s and 90s where they did some figures as well. It's just they're not figures that were released in Australia. So if you are a RoboCop fan, you can find them, but generally have to buy them overseas and import them here.
Very cool. Now, Lewis is contacting us all the way from the United Kingdom, all the way from England. We're always live when he's about to start work. Still plenty of time to call in sick. Don't mention Omicron or anything like that, because that really will get you into trouble. But you can still call in sick. Sorry, I've caught you some kind of Australian flu.
If you watch us for 10 minutes, you probably will have to call in sick.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So there you go. But you never know. You just like, I can't get away from the screen because we're just so engaging. But we haven't actually finished with the action figures yet, because we've got a little bit of this.
Well, was it Russell that mentioned we should do some Flash Gordon stuff? Well, a couple of weeks ago, we looked at the original Flash Gordon figures based on some of the comics from the 40s and 50s. They're also releasing a series of Flash Gordon comics based on the 80s movie. Now, they are really good representations of the costumes. I didn't think the sculpts were as great. I don't know if they didn't get the likeness rights to Max von Sydow, but it looks more of an evil comic book version of Ming on the movie costume to me.
See, I agree with you. It looks nothing like Max at all. But for the character, it actually works, because he's in charge of Mongo. He's a bit of an arsehole. And having that evil sort of presence and all the rest of it, I think kind of works for it. So I would say, yeah, it's maybe you are right. It's based, maybe you're right. Maybe it's more based on the comic and they've just used the film costume. But yeah, I've got no issue with it. Yeah.
Look, I totally agree. I actually think they are amazing figures, and that's why I decided to highlight them. But I do think if they say based on the movie and they include movie props like the egg that Sam Jones uses as the football in the palace scene and things like that, that maybe the likenesses should have reflected the movie as well, rather than sort of being inspired by events from the movie. But I do think they're great figures. I do think they're a great set.
But by the same token, this looks nothing like Sam Jones. So if you just looked at the head and nothing else, you'd never figure out who it was. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the original Flash Gordon has stolen the Fabergé egg from Ming kind of thing, rather than a movie version. But again, I do think these are great, and they come in a double package. They're sold together as Flash and Ming from the 80s movie. So if you want a bit of 80s movie nostalgia for Christmas, I think this is a really good set as well. So we've looked at 3 pretty amazing sets of toys this week in the news section.
I agree with this, Gavin. Sam is like the Flash character is way too muscular. I mean, Sam Jones wasn't that large, and that to me is a bit off-putting. But I guess they've sort of taken their own sort of liberty and their own license to sort of like, okay, these are the costumes and the characters from the movie. We'll just twig them a little bit, say this is the more accurate representation of how they're meant to look like. So Ming looks more evil, Flash looks physically larger, and maybe they've just like a bit of creative, artistic license. Yeah, that's it. That's what I was looking for. So
Russell's saying their fun fact, Ming and Mongo people were originally canary yellow but turned pink after a few years. That was probably to avoid any racist overtones, maybe. Another interesting fact, I think Flash in the new sort of series is a quarterback, but originally he was a polo player, which probably doesn't seem as heroic and all-American as a quarterback, does it?
Yeah, I like this from the Vile. Yeah, T-Man as Flash. Yeah, that's what we discussed in a couple of episodes prior when we were talking about action figures that were coming out and they're physically larger than they really should be. But yeah, exactly right. So it's very, very cool. All right, so we move on now. All right, now normally we would get straight into Greg King's cheaper things, but guess what? We're not.
No, Greg went into hiding this week, and we couldn't get him to submit anything for this week's Greg King's cheaper things. And when he eventually came out of hiding, we found he was inside Greg King's Christmas cracker. So from next week, Greg will let us pull on his enormous cracker and see what comes out. Will you be able to stuff your stocking, or will it just be a disappointing bang? So Greg will be reporting back to us leading up to Christmas on cheap and nasty Christmas stocking stuffers. So because we haven't received anything for Greg King's cheaper things and we haven't ordered anything else, we're going with Greg's enormous Christmas cracker, and everyone can get a pull.
I love it. So next time that Greg turns up to the store, we're going to be able to whisper to him, "Hey, dude, did you bring it? Because I wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind pulling the cracker." Jesus Christ! Oh, jeepers creepers! We're going to get ourselves in a lot of trouble with that. But yeah, there you go, Greg King's Christmas crackers. So yeah, it's exactly right. And it's very funny because when we were putting that when Aaron put the promo together, he originally had it written down as his giant cracker. And I said, don't say it's his giant cracker. That just sounds unbelievably suggestive. So he changes the word giant to enormous. So it's made it even bigger again. Unbelievable.
Yes.
I like this one from Bob. Yeah, it sounds like he's violated himself. Yeah, totally.
I think the thing is
$2 a pull.
when you're pulling crackers, the bigger the better.
Oh, my goodness gracious me. All right. Okay, hang on. What? Oh, sure those crackers were $2 at the reject shop. Actually, that's kind of true because theoretically, Greg King's crackers, they just wouldn't do it. This is
Yeah,
it'd be limpy or something. I'm going to move on before I get what?
I think that's something everyone seems to be excited about. So yeah, Greg King's having a rest this week, but he needs his rest because we're all going to be pulling his crackers next week.
Yeah. So long as he's not wearing like jeans or something and he bends over there. So there's Greg King's crackers. So, let's move on. I'm going to get myself into trouble. Let's go to this.
Useless pop of the week.
All right. Help us out here, dude.
There's so many useless pops and only so few episodes left till the end of the year. And we've had a couple sent in that I will use, but this is one that I found. Now, if you are a Jurassic Park fan and you wanted to get a Jurassic Park toy, I'd be going T-Rex, Velociraptors. If you were after a human character, Malcolm Grant or one of the other heroes. If I asked for a Jurassic Park toy and someone gave me Mr. DNA Pop with a clear head and a body that kind of looks like a bit of a suspicious sex toy or something, I would be very, very disappointed. What do you think of this pop? It's got interesting eyebrows.
Yeah, sorry, I actually revealed it a bit too early in the middle of your long spiel, and I thought, oh my goodness, I've preempted your text. It's complete shit. It's just as simple as that.
It really is one of those things where I think someone in the brains trust of Funko is throwing out ideas, and someone thinks, I'll just say this one for fun because no one can take that one seriously, and then it gets made. Yeah,
Jeffro wants it. So you get a load of that. Jeffro, what do you?
What's very interesting about that, Jeff has submitted our useless pop for next week that we'll be looking at. So there you go. But this one I just thought was weird because there's so many fantastic characters you could do in Jurassic Park. Now, I don't know if they've done pops of the dinosaurs or how you do it, but they do the oversized pops. But this you might as well have done that giant pile of dinosaur shit because that would be more popular a pop for me.
Now, this is a bit of a crude comment, but it's actually true, right? Rob has said it looks a bit like semen, and if you took it out of the box and just looked at the thing on the right hand side by itself, you could actually think that. So the colors might give it away, but nobody would think straight off the bat, oh, it's a DNA thing from bloody Jurassic Park. So yeah, and you're right.
It is one of those things for the pop. Sometimes I wonder if you just put a picture of the pop up, if anyone would actually guess it before we revealed what it actually was, because you're right, it's very hard to tell what that is.
Yeah, totally agree. And even Kelvin said, yeah, it looks bizarre. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right. Maybe they're getting desperate over at the Funko, and they go, you know what, we're just pulling things out of our arse. And maybe you're right. Maybe the pile of shit from the Triceratops might be in the way to go. So
there's two things we can do. We can make shit that that we haven't made before because we've done literally everything, or we can do old pops but do them day glow orange and say it's a variant, and that's the ones that I kind of think are pretty rubbish.
Exactly right. So anyway, from a useless pop of the week, which really is useless, even though Jeffro's as keen as mustard to try and get it, and I like how he says, hang on, it says strangely. So he's not even saying, oh, I want that. He's actually thinking, yeah, it's a bit wrong that I want it, but I do want it. So yeah, go figure, eh? So from completely bizarro things like that, Funko was concerned. Hang on, what? Funko was too concerned if they could, they couldn't. I think if they should. Yeah, exactly. Can you understand that? Yeah, they just did it because they could do it. Yeah. Love it. All right, moving on. Okay. So from completely crappy collectibles to more crappy collectibles.
Okay, because Greg King couldn't help us out this week, we've put our trust in someone who is respected among Christmas purchasers and I guess Christmas planners everywhere, and that is Clark Griswold. And because we've entered December, which we are calling End Zone or Christmas or Festivus for those of us that don't celebrate Christmas, this is Clark Griswold's guide to pop culture advent calendars. Now, advent calendars are one of those things that I've grown up with forever. And when I was little, it used to be you just opened a little door and there was a picture behind it. And that was most of my life. And then when I got a bit older, there was chocolates behind those doors too. Some genius said, well, we'll add chocolate and make it even better. But fast forward 20 years, and now you can get advent calendars that cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars, so you can get Greg King style crappy crap out of them every day for a month leading up to Christmas. So before you shell out your hard-earned money, Clark Griswold has gone out of his way to go and find and open all those calendars. A spoiler for the rest of the month because you're going to see some of the stuff that's in them, but these are all genuine calendars you can buy and are available now.
This is a bit of a crass comment, but I can't help myself. Gavin has said, yeah, if that was semen, it would be made by Spunko. I absolutely love that. All right, let's move on quickly. You made it up.
Here we go. So we don't usually look at a lot of music on this show, but one of the ones I did see pop up, or Clark recommended, was the Beatles Advent Calendar. Now, this is 24 days of opening fab stuff from the 60s, all related to the Beatles. It comes in a fantastic looking pop culture style coloured advent box where you pull out the box into 3 different calendar slabs, and then you open a slab each day to get such amazing things as Beatles baubles or Beatles coasters or yellow submarine ornaments for the tree. So if you're a Beatles fan, I think this is actually pretty cool. But how much would you expect to pay for something like this, Dags?
I have no idea, but I think you're about to tell me. Look at that.
$219. Now, this is from Eagle Moss, who do the sort of piecework magazines, or you can get figures from them. They do a whole lot of stuff, but I've never seen them do advent calendars before. Now, this reminded me of the Ruttles and their song "All You Need Is Cash," because you can buy for $219 about $20 worth of Christmas decorations and coasters. Now, as a collectible in itself, it might be cool to have something like that as a Beatles fan, but that is, and this is another segment we do, truly poor value.
Totally agree.
So I don't know if people can see what this is, but Clark is peering deep into the Christmas tree, and there seems to be a subspace portal going to the Delta Quadrant because he is peering out a Borg cube. And can you believe it? There is actually a Borg collective advent calendar this year. So again, it is from Eagle Moss, and it's the same kind of cube. They probably did the Beatles one and go, what would make a better advent calendar cube than the Beatles? The Borg cube, because everyone associates the Borg with Christmas festivities. So there is a Borg cube. It's black with a few green highlights. It's the same as the last one, where you can pull out 4 lots of little doors that you can open. And this one, I guess if you're a Star Trek fan, it might have stuff that is a bit more collectible. I know fans of Star Trek collect different things. This has, again, some coasters that have ship schematics on, which I thought was pretty good. It has a mug, so I don't know if it's a tiny, tiny little mug or it's a massive, massive advent calendar to be pulling a mug out from behind one of the doors, but it has the first contact ship. And then the other one I've highlighted there is a pair of socks that, have the schematics of the Enterprise on. So again, how much would you expect to pay, Dags?
A lot, I suspect. There we go.
Well, this was even more than the Beatles, which surprised me because, when you get the Beatles stuff, you have to license a lot of stuff to Apple, which still exists and still takes a cut. But obviously the Ferengi were behind this one because this is $239.99, and you've got Quark there showing you how much that is in gold-pressed latinum that you would need to be able to afford this. And I tell you what, for that amount, you'd want to be assimilated by the Borg, wouldn't you?
Well, one thing's for sure, one of those socks you'll be able to hang on the regeneration chamber, and that's one generation chamber you don't go into when that's dangling there, if you know what I mean. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So
Very good.
again, I was surprised, but this is all real products that you can order at the moment to start your opening your advent calendars.
Very cool.
Now, a tradition in our home is the Lego Advent calendars. And the Lego Advent calendars, they release a few of them each year. There's just the general sort of City Lego, and there's Friends, and there's a few other Lego brands. But we're just looking at the pop culture genre ones. There is a Star Wars Mandalorian one, and there's a Harry Potter one. And these are both pretty good ones. You've never... Yeah, that's absolutely true. So I actually think the Lego calendars are actually probably good value, because Lego costs a lot anyway, and with the Advent calendars you get exclusive stuff that's only available in the Advent calendar. It's usually topical because they bring them out. They're only available for like 6 months of the year leading up to Christmas, and then you have all these exclusive figures. So these are the two we're looking at. If we go to the next slide, I think the first one we're looking at is the Mandalorian one. Now, how cute is that? You've got the Mandalorian sort of in Christmas garb, and he has a floating sleigh with Grogu. I nearly said Baby Yoda, thinking like Baby Jesus, but Grogu.
All right, he said Baby Yoda, so I'm just going to kick him off out of the show for a little.
And what I think is fantastic about Christmas in Legoland, you have all the stuff that we associate with Christmas. IG assassin droids, clone troopers with lasers, Tusken Raiders in the snow singing Christmas carols or going, that's probably their version of caroling. We just didn't know it. Probe droids, and it all comes on a fantastic snowy backdrop, which is probably Tatooine at winter. What do you think, Dags?
Yeah, it's just very, very exciting, eh? So what you need now is like for some little young Jedi younglings to appear, and some like random Jedi dude with a lightsaber to slice and dice a whole lot of them. So looks like a lot of fun. What can I say?
The best thing about Lego Jedi younglings is you can pull all the heads off.
I love it.
Now, this is the other one I thought we'd have a look at. Now, Harry Potter does sort of lend very well to Christmas, because being very British, and usually in the Harry Potter movies, they have scenes in some of them where it's snowing and Christmas. What we have done is each year we've bought the Harry Potter one, and when the new one comes out, we load it up with all the pieces from the old one. So you can have quite a good Harry Potter Christmas diorama going with Lego if you get the Lego Advent calendars. And again, this comes with, usually it's movie specific, so they'll pick a movie and they'll pick all scenes from one movie. This has got like the Room of Requirement, and it's got the main cast and some of the Gringotts elves, I think, and then it's got Christmas food in Hogwarts Great Hall and things like that. So I think these are both nice Christmas calendars. The only thing that's a bit disappointing with these are to make great Christmas presents, but the thing is you need them at the beginning of December, not the end. So they're out of date by a year if you buy them for next year. But how much are these? These aren't as expensive as the other ones. These are $49.95, and at that price, even Cousin Eddie can afford them for Ruby Sue. So I recommend these ones. And you know what? They're usually an investment. They go up in value year after year once you've got them.
You actually sound like you're doing an infomercial here. You know that, don't you? It's great. It's wonderful. And it's only $50.
Steak knives.
Yeah.
So again, we've got Clark peering through the portal, and this time he's seeing the Funko Advent calendars. Now, the Funko Advent calendars are more of a recent thing for me. I haven't really ever had one of them. I've seen them maybe just the last year or two. And what you do is you get 24 days of opening themed Funko Pops. They're just mini Funko Pops, so they're about as big as a 20-cent piece. So they're the mini Pops that they have released before. Some of them are good. Some of them aren't Pops. The Pikachu one are Funko, but they're not Pops. Some of them are a bizarre choice. I don't know about 24 Days of the Office leading into Christmas. They've gone with Harry Potter as well, and then they've gone with Five Nights at Freddy. And of course, for some people, Christmas in December is an absolute horror movie, so that will be the ones that those people kind of buy. So if we go to the next slide, I think we can have a look at what's inside them. Yep, Clark is very excited about looking at the Pikachus. I do think, though, at $99, they are a bit expensive. If they were the same price as the Lego ones, about $50, yep, you could, justify $2 each, but for what you get out of, they'd probably impress kids who are into it. But if you're an adult collector who gets these because you're into one of these franchises, seems a bit on the heavy side to me. Would you buy the Funko Pops? I know how much you love them.
No, but one thing I can tell is that clearly in your store, everything was always priced at something or other 99. Because you look at that, that's not $99. That's $100, dude. You've got to round up by that 1 cent. It's not 99. You don't get $1 coin back, and you've done this to all the other ones as well. So just that's why they put the 99 in there to psychologically make you think it's under 100 when it's not. So
this is the amazing
you need to educate yourself, son.
This is the amazing thing about Aaron's Collectibles. You come in and something is $99.99. and you get charged $90 for it.
Well, there is that. So, yes, very, 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 very cool. So there you go. We're still rocking on with this stuff. Is that right? Here we go.
Yep, so we're rounding it up now. Now, this was a new one to me. This is Playmobil advent calendars. And what I didn't know these were out till Clark sent these images to me. They've done 2 Back to the Future advent calendars. You have got the town square from the original Back to the Future with a whole lot of characters and scenes from that. And you've also got the Old West advent calendar with your Old West themes. And Back to the Future was a franchise that Playmobil did maybe about 2 years ago, and it was very successful, and it has pretty much sold out. But now you can add to your Playmobil Back to the Future collections with these calendars, which I think is a fantastic idea, where they've kind of done everything in the sets and now they've got calendars that can supplement the sets you've already got.
Very good.
So these as well, I thought were quite well priced. I was looking just on different places online, and they're $30 to $50 Australian each. And for what you get, I thought that was very good value. Now, Clark could be looking at a girl in the pool in his imagination there, or he might be really aroused by the Playmobil characters. Who can tell? But I actually think the Playmobil characters were probably the pick of the advent calendars for price, content, if you are a fan of that genre, Back to the Future.
And of course, if you just want to wait until after Christmas, the prices will drop like 3/4 of the amount. So there you go. Gavin has said about a Groundhog Day calendar that just never ends. You just keep flipping the pages and away, having a whale of a time with that. So there you go. Good old Rico even said you get to December the 25th, it takes you back to December the 1st, 1955 for the Back to the Future one. So
very
that is
cool.
Very, very groovy. So there you go. Good stuff. This is the last one, I think.
Yep, that's the end of our roundup. There are so many different advent calendars. You could not do them all. As you can see, there's Friends, there's Star Wars, there's Dolly Parton, there's Minecraft, there is Home Alone, and of course your Batman and Marvel DC kind of stuff. They're at everybody's budget. You could get the Star Wars one, for example, for $4.95 in Woolworths this week because they're trying to sell them out now. But if you are a collector, you can always find something unique as an advent calendar. And if you put them away, there's not a lot of them around in the future, so they can often go for many times what you pay for them. So that is the end to Clark Griswold's guide to pop culture advent calendars. We will see you next year, Clark.
Well done. I like how the Macaulay Culkin character over here, look at his expression. You could put a great thought bubble with that, couldn't you? I mean, what would happen to make you react like that? So there you go. And there's only one thing, of course, that could happen to make you react like that is like saying, oh my God, oh no, it's the Vile File.
Well, you say that, don't you? But who is the most popular person out of the 3 of us, 4 if you include Greg Kinn? Who gets fan mail? Who gets pictures sent to them? Not me. Not you. Yes. Do you get pictures sent to you, Dags?
Only pictures of you, but they're the pictures I don't want to look at. So, oh, jeez, where are we going with this? But you are correct. The good old Vile File. And once again, he's actually getting a bit of a groupie following because he's got more like incoming mail.
Yeah, so after we had mail before, but he's got some more scarlet letters, and I've picked out the highlights of some of them. So first, we've got a follow-up from Susan, who sent in, I think she sent in maybe the tattoo a week or 2 ago. Yep. Thank you for featuring me as Violator of the Week and for sharing the Vile's bedroom toys. I found it quite stimulating. I was wondering if Lord Vile would share some items from his wardrobe. when he isn't wearing his dapper Sith robes. I have sent a clipping from a real advert for some vintage fashion I would love to see him in, Susan Reynolds. Now, this almost sounds like I don't want this coming to me. It should go straight to the vial because it's almost getting into that sort of Craigslist territory, not an internet show that we're doing kind of thing. But Dags and I are the matchmakers and dreamer of dreams, so we'll push forward with this with this relationship. Now, this is the clipping that Susan sent us. Our collars arouse sexy girls. Now,
that's what you need. Hang on, that's when you need that DNA pop thing that looks like a thing of semen.
Well, I was going to say they're bigger than Greg's Christmas crackers. Those collars, aren't they?
Actually, it looks like a cracker on each side there, doesn't it? Eh?
It really,
anyway, where are you going with this, old son?
Well, so Susan had asked if she could show, if the vial would share some pictures of himself out of his Sith robes, and we've got to say the vial is a bit bashful and doesn't like to send us pictures in cash gear. And this isn't really what this topic started off as. It's more highlighting popular culture, but we're quite happy to give it a bit of rope and see where it leads itself. But the vial was nice enough to send some pictures of when he was actually modelling for catalogues in the 70s. And here's one of himself. He's only prepared to share this one picture, and then we're going to get back onto topic. Now there he is in one of his men jumpsuits, and we're hoping that for you it's just as arousing as the giant collars. He is modeling baby blue there. Like we said, it's back in the 70s, so it was very fashionable at the time. I'm not making any judgment about it now. I don't know if he still has that outfit or would slip into it again for you for some private cam session sometime or other.
See, the problem is I got the promo wrong, right? It says here jumpsuits for men, for our men. And of course, that's not right, correct at all. It's got to be jumpsuits for violators.
Well, there is a mail order catalogue there, which probably is a bit hard to see, but this was a real firm and this was a real advert, and you could send off for these jumpsuits in Hollywood. The firm was based in Hollywood, where we all know that is the center for the most sensible fashion you can buy.
Isn't that just so unpolitically correct? Eh? Our collars arouse sexy girls. Jeez, just so wrong. But so thanks, Susan, for that one. She's batting, like 2 for 2 at the moment in terms of sending through some really, really cool things. But let's move off the Vials attire for the evening. We've gone to his bedroom now. We've got into his clothes. Time to see something completely different.
So this was another letter we got from Colin Andrews, who I don't think watches live, but there you go. We have a broader reach than the dozen people who join us every Wednesday. This came up on my Facebook feed, and I instantly thought of the Vial file. If that came up on the Facebook feed, I would not instantly be thinking of the Vial file, but there you go. I'd be thinking of
Greg King. Hey, I'd be thinking of Greg King's cheaper things.
Well, one of them is a soul man. Is one of these gentlemen the File before he became a Sith Lord and an internet sensation? And we can tell you, yes, one of those is the Vial, but we're not going to tell you which one.
Yes, because there can be only one. Yeah, exactly right. But this is actually true. We are actually getting correspondence in for the Vial file. And so absolutely classic. So let's move on, shall we?
Okay, now here's a little preview. Before we go into the topic for today, I think everyone will know what this is. This is a picture of Samara from The Ring, the curse that if you watch the video, she will come and kill you and crawl out of the television and get you. So from that, can anyone guess what we're looking at today? And I am going to say, and I think Dags will agree, this is a low-hanging fruit that we're looking at this week.
It's a bit of a dangler. Are you like when you drink your Lipton's tea? Are you a bit of a jingler or a dangler? So there you go. Here we go.
Here we go. So this is kind of the Vial saying, let's get back on topic. I don't want to have pictures of my tattoos. I don't want pictures from my past yearbook. And please don't ask for pictures of me in casual dress. We are looking at amazing Jar Jar Binks memorabilia today. And
I like the way you put amazing and Jar Jar Binks. They don't mesh, dude. So there you go.
Amazing doesn't mean good. You can have that's amazingly bad or that's amazingly poor value. But this is a toy. I think it was a giveaway from KFC in America or Burger King of Jar Jar Binks, and it just reminded me of what would happen if you had a curse. So you were watching sort of episode 1, and Jar Jar Binks walked up to the TV and then climbed out into the room.
Very good.
This has to be the most requested item for the Vial file, and that's why the Vial had resisted using it up until now, because the Vial likes to keep a bit of mystery, and when everyone says, oh, there's this lollipop of Jar Jar Binks where you suck on his tongue, the Vial avoids it because everyone's already been violated by that tongue. But what happened, the Vial found a picture of a current one that had never been unwrapped, and you can see in that one sort of down the bottom where Jar Jar's saliva has now reacted with the plastic, and his tongue looks like it's full of blisters, and it has burnt and corroded the plastic covering that kept it sanitary. So when kids were in the toy shops, they didn't open it and touch it for someone to go home and then suck their little COVID fingers into their mouth. It looks like an adult toy. Well,
yeah, you can just imagine the noises now. Ooh!
Well, I tell you something. I don't know the kind of adult toys that that Sully's been using. But not to me, it doesn't.
Oh, there's a line there, and I'm just going to move right on. But if you want to get a copper licking from Jar Jar, that is the way to go. Hang on, there we go. So, guys, there's no way he's having a go at that lolly. There you go. Yes, exactly right. Imagine giving this to your girlfriend and say, here you go, honey. Just think of me when you're sucking on this.
Well, when they were displayed in the shops, the mouths were closed. So imagine buying one for your kids and it's like Jar Jar lollipop, you know, and you get it home, and when you open it, instead of a chopper chop being in there, there's this big pink tongue that you're meant to suck on.
Yeah. You got what's the joke, dude? The Mace Windu joke.
The what?
I've changed the slide.
Oh, okay. So I was like, this is Mace Windu's reaction to seeing that toy when he opened the mouth up to see the tongue. So, yep, sorry, bad timing. Should have seen it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So very, very good. I like this. Well, some people do love Star Wars a lot. Exactly right. So it's just there's a lot of really, really bad connotations associated with this. So we'll move on, shall we?
Well, just when you didn't think that Jar Jar toys could get any worse, there was this. Now, everyone seems obsessed with Jar Jar's tongue, but especially toy merchandisers. So this was a Jar Jar tongue attack tongue flicker, which you could get through Walker's Chips, which is kind of like when they did the Tarzos and different prizes here for episode 1. Now, the idea of this thing is you get Jar Jar with a giant sticky tongue, and then you cut out the different goober fish and stuff that he likes to eat on the back of the box, and then you flick his tongue and it will pick up the fish and eat them. The trouble is, if you know any of these toys, unless you keep them mint and sort of pink like the ones in that picture there, as soon as you start using them, they begin to look manky and brown and quite disgusting, like the toy in the bottom there. And I also do wonder, Dags, how do you think Jar Jar's tongue got that long?
You do wonder, don't you? And in fact, I like this one from Russell. He says it's a recycled Gene Simmons' collectibles. Yeah, I like that one. That is a damn good question, isn't it? Eh? So I do remember it was actually we made it as a joke in the Phantom Menace when he's like picking the fruit out in the dinner table in Shmi's house, and the second time he goes, "Excuse me." The second time I just should have got the fork and just gone. Absolutely unbelievable. But it is a good question. How did that tongue get so long? And this is a very, very dodgy picture.
So, like Luke Skywalker is actually practicing pulling one of Greg King's giant crackers there, but he's having a good tug on Jar Jar's tongue. Now, this is another action figure, and a la Toy Story, when you go to sleep and all the toys come alive at night, poor Jar Jar gets attacked and abused in the toy box, and of course everyone pulls his tongue and rips it and pulls it, and that's why we have this picture here.
That's just wrong, dude. That is just so bad. So your Schwartz is as big as mine, so there you go. Oh my goodness. Anyway, jeez. I'm going to move on.
Here we go. So we've looked at some of the Jar Jar stuff, but there was a heck of a lot of Jar Jar stuff produced for episode 1, and for some reason, toy retailers were obsessed with Jar Jar's tongue. I bet you Lucasfilm showed them, a couple of clips of his tongue, and they went with making tongues in all of them. So there we have a Jar Jar hand puppet, and with the expression on his face, I would probably like that if I had a hand stuck up my ass as well. We have a Jar Jar pool recliner where Jar Jar relaxes back while you dive into his holes. We have another Jar Jar plush with a removable sort of wind out tongue. We have just an action figure style Jar Jar with a pit droid there, again with a massive tongue. We had these other Star Wars figures that were kind of like connectables, but it kind of looked like Jar Jar crossed with He-Man, just the way that the figure has been put together. And then again, for some reason, there was an obsession with Jar Jar and personal hygiene. So again, you have a toothbrush kit with a tongue toothbrush holder. And then the one that I think is really bizarre, you've got a soft soap dispenser there with the dispenser out of Jar Jar's head between his eyes, so you can sterilize your hands with Jar Jar's brain by pushing down on the plunger and the soap coming out. And then lastly, we have another little cross-eyed Jar Jar plush there as well. So for anyone who is triggered by Jar Jar, I'm sure this is one of the best episodes for you ever.
All I can say is this. Yep, there you go. Just, oh my goodness gracious me. So what are you trying to say about all these particular items there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, you can see what Kylo Ren thinks of Jar Jar and the headless Jar Jar there. And look, there's the Jar Jar being suffocated in his packet, which I think is the way to go. I don't even know what that little Jar Jar down the front is. I don't know where you're meant to stick that. There's a Jar Jar USB port, so you can pull Jar Jar's head off and store information inside his brain. And last of all, you've got like a dumbfounded Jar Jar there, thinking that all of his items have been well and truly violated.
Absolutely, got to press the right button. There we go. There, how good is that? Unbelievable. So there you go. I like that one from William. Yeah, soap on a Jar Jar. So there you go. That's one soap you don't want to drop in the prison cell.
Yeah,
absolutely unbelievable.
Who knows where the tongue will go?
Tell you what, the show's getting more and more adult all the time, but oh dear, love it. As Guy said, yeah, they don't look half as bad, but once you chuck your commentary and then it makes it sound even worse.
I'm just totally adding a neutral commentary. Anything that anyone thinks because of the comments I say, that's just because of your mind, not mine.
That's a very good point, because these are legitimate items, right? And we're just showing you photographs. And if you guys are the ones putting all this stuff together yourselves, that is not our fault. So there you go.
And just because I edit a Luke Skywalker doll next to Jar Jar's tongue and it just happens to look like something suggestive, I didn't do it on purpose. They're real toys, real pictures.
In fact, it'll be on display in the store as of tomorrow. All right, we need to move on. This one, Mark said this is why he loves his Wednesday nights. Yes, exactly right. Very, very cool. And you're right, Rusky Babes. Yeah, it is Aaron's Collectibles After Dark, and it is actually getting dark right now. So let's move on to this, shall we? Ooh, baby, do you know that's right? All right, so we're hang on, I've got to get my thing out. So we're discussing eBay stuff. What do you got tonight, Mr. Aaron?
So we haven't done this for a while. We're going to go and look at vintage gaming and gaming consoles and old gaming formats, because over lockdown there was a bit of a rush on them, and now we've come out of lockdown. Maybe they're not going for as much. $22.50, you're not going to get anything tonight, mate. We're going to look at old video games. So for anyone who's an old retro gamer, this is the night for you to shine.
So once again, if you haven't seen this game before, these are sold items. You just got to write down what you think they sold for. Ange has already put in a price, and he doesn't even know what the item is yet. So absolutely love it. So here we are. Let's kick it off.
Ange is bidding $22.50 for this amazing Hello Kitty Dreamcast. Now, Dreamcast was one of those old systems, I think from the early 2000s. It was kind of PlayStation, Sega. Was it Sega Dreamcast? They were trying to sort of compete with Xbox and PlayStation. So it was the Sega Dreamcast. Xbox and PlayStation kind of were successful. Dreamcast was not so successful. This is a Hello Kitty version, so we haven't really looked at the phenomenon that is Hello Kitty, have we, Dags? Maybe that'll be one of the shows we look at in the future. What do you think?
I can imagine violating good old Hello Kitty. So there you go. All right, let's look at some prices. So already know Ange has kicked us off for $22.50. Gavin has said 12. I shouldn't have to be $12. Colin has come up with 450. Typical Greg has chucked in his $2. Kelvin has said $1. Geez, there's not a lot of optimism for these items, is there? So there we go. That's where we're sort of at the moment. So what do other people think? So Guy's come up with a bit more respectable, 350. Moneybag Sullivan is also 350. William is at 300. Bob is at 70. Jimmy is good to see. Jimmy is at 650. Rob is at 5. So that's where we are currently, which is very, very cool. Hello Kitty Dreamcast. What do people think this actually sold for on eBay? Sega Dreamcast Hello Kitty Blue boxed, like new. If it's boxed, you would think it is brand new, but clearly it isn't. So they just said it's like new. So what do we reckon it went for? So do we think it went for a lot of money or go really, really cheap? It went for a whopping $720.
So I think the closest was what, 350, was it? A few people said 350. Well,
no,
650.
Colin's at 450, so he's short by $300, but there you go.
Jimmy said 650 though, so that's probably going to get him there, isn't it?
Hang on, who said that?
Jimmy.
Oh, yes, he did. Sorry, Jimmy, you've got it, old son. Yeah, there you go. You're about was it $70 short? But okay, good for you, old son. Yeah, well done.
There you go. So that's one of those things. I really don't know much about Hello Kitty collectibles. Not that far off. But there was an episode of the Toys That Made Us on Hello Kitty, so there must be a brigade of collectors out there that look for this kind of thing.
Very, very cool. All right, we'll move on to the next item.
So Pokemon is pretty big at the moment. Switch has just brought out the new Pokemon game that is doing amazingly well. This is one of the old school Pokemon cartridges that was for the Game Boy Advance. This is the Emerald cartridge. My son has this and used to play it all the time, so it's in his room somewhere kicking around. How much would you expect to pay for that little cartridge, Dags?
I have no idea, but I'll tell you what some of the options that are coming through. So good old Gavin's gone for $11.38, a classic Star Wars line there. Ange's at $16.54. Soft kitty, warm kitty. Very, very good from the Vial. Good to see the Vial violating those kitties. That's what we like to see. Where are we? Hang on, the screen's moving too fast. Okay, Mark has said 500. Colin is at 6. There's a complete contrast in prices. Greg has said $2 for the one in your son's bedroom. I love that one. Kelvin's at 1,200. Bob's at 150. Grant, good to see Grant joining us, is at 350. Rob is at 22.50. That was actually Angie's previous price. Jimmy said 250. Moneybag Sullivan is at 275. Thomas is at is at 300. And violating the Pokemon is the Vial at 250. And William has said 222. It's Richie's favorite. So how good is that? So very, very cool. All right. So it's a Pokemon Emerald Green Nintendo Game Boy Advance Australian cartridge only. Yada, yada, yada. It's all very good. How much do you reckon this went for, kiddies? He went for a whopping. Look at that. 225. Oi. William's right on the money almost. How good's that? This
is one of those amazing things where not so long ago, these were in sort of cash converters, a loose one in that condition for about $30 or $40. So this is what lockdown does to people who are after those games and sort of collecting things. So $225, I think, is a high price for that, but it's what the market is supporting at the moment.
There you go. And William just got in right at the last moment, as we said, and he only had to add in $3, and it's all his. Very, very cool. Well done. Next item.
There you go. Now this is a nice one. This is a Nintendo Game Boy console in original box with booklets, never used. So I don't know what kind of kid would have got this in the 80s and or the 90s and got it and go, oh, that's really nice, and never got it out and never played with it. That's the inside of the box showing that it's still...
You're talking about the game. We're just going to clarify that the Game Boy.
Yeah, we're not talking about Hello Kitty here.
Or crackers for that matter. Get on with it.
This show's going downhill fast, isn't it? So how much would you expect to play for a new mint Game Boy?
Jesus Christ. I like the fact he's even got batteries in there as well. So they're ready to plug in and have a whale of a time. Very, very cool. And I like this one from Daniel regarding your the Game Boy in the last one. Yeah, time to find the one in Carl's bedroom and sell it off. All right, so Colin has said 700 for this. Yeah, sorry, 720. Bob is at 600. Jimmy's at 1500. Ange is at 1502 cents. Grant's at 250. Rob is at 1200. Moneybag Sullivan is at 1500. Kelvin is 650. Guy is at 1375. Gavin is at 2187. Oh, very good. I got that. Mark is at 1000. William is at 1600. There were 31 bids on this. So clearly there was a fair bit of interest in this. So there you go. And you're right, Kelvin. The price is going down, down, down. It's very, very good. Very, very exciting. Nintendo Game Boy. Still in the original box with the booklets and the batteries. So there you go. Get a bit of Energizer Bunny action if that's your style. So there you go. So what do you reckon this went for? What do you reckon? Vile said, I always thought the Game Boy was a sus name, but yeah, $700 for the Vile. Very, very cool. It is a bit of an unusual name when you sit and think about it. Yeah. All right, so what do you reckon it went for? Never been used or abused. The original box, the whole bit, box and dice, including the batteries, as I said, it went for a whopping $1,425.
So that's a lot of money for a Game Boy. I think it's one of those things where that is above what they usually go for. But as soon as you're looking at stuff that's brand new, never used, you can always add an extra 30% on sort of the price of what they normally go for. And finding this stuff in good condition is pretty hard. So we've got Sully, I think. Is that the closest?
Yeah, Moneybag Sullivan got it at 1,500. Ironically, had Ange knocked 2 cents off instead of put 2 cents on and made it 1,498, he would have got it. So there you go. But very, very cool. Actually, there's two of them. Jimmy's also at 1,500. So, yeah, you guys are going to have to, work out how you're going to split your Game Boy if that's how it is. So, yeah, very, very cool.
I'll tell you what, Jimmy knows his gaming stuff, doesn't he?
He's doing very, very well. Speaking of which, here's another one.
Microsoft Xbox Series 10, 1 terabyte video game console. This is all sort of brand new, never used. It's sort of a current thing here that someone's got and they're selling straight away. How much would you pay?
Very, very good. So it could actually be worth it just for the hard drive alone. 1 terabyte. Back in the old days, a terabyte was like, oh my God, that's just like gigantic. You could have like the knowledge of the entire planet, of the entire universe on there now. Now you just fill it up with a few videos. So what?
Mr. Data used to dream about having a terabyte memory, didn't he?
Yeah, I know. They invented a term for his storage capacity. So yeah, it'd be kind of funny having data there with all these like cables linked into all these like SCSI drives and hard drives just sitting off the side there.
Where do you stick the USB port?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Get a bit of iCloud action. All right, so Gavin has gone 370 to 1. So yeah, another Star Wars quote, which is really, really cool. Colin said 650. Ange said 75. Kelvin's at 90. Moneybag Sullivan is at 750. Rob's at 45. Jimmy's at 600. Williams at 850 and Grant is at 485. Nobody really knows, do they, what this thing would be worth? So, and it's just a plain black box. It's pretty damn boring, isn't it, when you sit and think about it? And there were 6 bids for it too, so there's a little bit of interest in this. So, yeah, very, very exciting. Microsoft Xbox Series 1 terabyte video gaming console black, as if you couldn't half tell. So there you go. Now, I think I had Grant at 485. Guy at 675 and Mark is at 1250. So they've just chucked their prices in towards the end, which is very, very cool. Sorry, there it is. Wait for one button too many. $6,100. What do you reckon of that?
Now, this is one of those things that really surprises me because there was a few of them on here and there was obviously about 6 people that really wanted one because the oldest one went for the most and then the second oldest one that was bid on went for the second most, and then it came down to all the ones after that were going for about $1,000 to $2,000. But it is one of those things where you get a couple of people who want the same item, and it takes off and it goes for 2 or 3 times what it originally cost.
So you could say, what are the odds of somebody just plucking a rabbit out of the hat and just chucking in a random price and actually winning it? And of course, that's Gavin at 3,720 to 1. But of course, never tell him the odds. So there you go. How about that? $6,000. That's just insane, isn't it? So
it really is. But someone must really love their gaming. There you go.
Yeah, totally agree with you. All right, so here we go. Number 5, a completely different option here.
So this is an old school one. This is an Atari cartridge for the Atari 2600. This was old game I used to play, which was Superman. And this has the original box in really nice condition and the original cartridge. This was from the early 80s, so the oldest item that we have on the show tonight. Quite hard to get in such good condition. How much would you pay?
So the previous one, people have said, why and all, and Moneybag Sullivan had said this, and Guy said that, and you're right, it's completely insane as to why you'd spend $6,000. That's a lot of money when you sit and think about it. But anyway, we move on to this item. So what do you reckon this is worth? So Gavin has said $421, Collins at $75, Ange is at $8.75, Jimmy's at $150. So it's either going to be very, very cheap or very, very expensive. So Grant is at $245, Kelvin's at $200. Like this Marcus said $2 plus a Christmas cracker. Moneybag Sullivan has said $350. That's a contrast between prices, isn't there? So what do you reckon it's worth, kids? So Rob has said 25, which is very, very groovy. And we'll have to wait and see if there's any other Superman Atari cartridges. I mean, the old days, the Atari was the console of choice. I've forgotten where I was. Okay, Rob said 25. Guy said 175. Violating a Superman is the Vile at 150, and William has said $250, which is a very, very cool. So there you go. All right, and you are right, Grant. It is actually very nice artwork. No denying that at all. In fact, some people would probably buy this just for the artwork and just put it on the wall as a poster. Very, very cool. All right, Superman Atari cartridge. The condition is good. That could mean anything at all, and it went for a whopping $10.
So one week I am going to do one of these where there isn't a low price item at all, because I think people wait up for that one that goes for a bit less. I thought that was a really good price. It's a complete working, nice retro game from the early 80s in nice condition on a franchise that we haven't looked at yet, but is quite a cool franchise with a lot of collectors. So Angelo gets it for $8.75.
Yeah, Ange came into the store on Saturday and he said he just makes these prices up. He doesn't actually really plan for them. It's like, yeah, but he's a bit of insider trading. That's what we reckon. So well done, Mr. Ange. Awesome work as always. Very, very cool. Now, normally we don't do the five items, but this time we're going to chuck in a bonus one because this one is actually, you're going to love it. Okay, so here we go.
So this is a gaming mouse. It's a wired gaming mouse for sort of people who like to play a lot of games. This probably isn't one of those pop culture ones that we look at, but this I just thought was an interesting item. It's a programmable mouse for the PC, PS4, Mac. You can plug it into USB port and use it on just about any system. So it is a cool mouse because it lights up from the inside and has all these interesting colors. How much for the little mouse?
And it's LGBTQI, whatever friendly, because of all they've got the rainbow colors in there as well. So there you go. And I like this one from Mark. He said his cracker was worth $8. I love it. All right. So where are we? Gavin is kicking off our Mickey Mouse, our little Mickey. What's our Mickey worth? $38.27. From Gavin. Ange said 2. Okay. Rob has said 3,700. It's a mouse, guys. Jeepers creepers. William has said 45. Rico sticking his nose in, as is maybe $5. Slap the word razor on it and charge $250. Where's the word razor? I missed that somewhere. So, okay, very, very cool. Kelvin said 100. Guy said 75. It is a mouse, a pointing device, all right? Grant has said 80. Colin has said $1,100. It is a mouse. Jimmy said 150. And Ange just said, but it's wired, man. Marcus said 500 gaming nerd dollars. Yeah, that's probably has something to do with it. Moneybag Sullivan has said 350. It is a mouse. So he just uses the point shit around, mate. What can I say? Hey, so but it's got pretty colors, man. Violating the mouses at the Vile at $125. I love to see the Vile violates the mice. So yes, very, very cool. What do you reckon it's going for? Well, the wide gaming mouse. I mean, wide is the way to go because you don't have to worry about the damn batteries. Backlit, honeycomb, got all pretty colors, the whole bit. Looks like the old Channel 7 logo, doesn't it? The RGB thing in the middle.
There's 37 bids on this as well, so there's a bit of interest.
Yes, that's right. That's a 37 bids. So there you go. So a lot of people are very, very keen on a colourful mouse, which you just used it to point things. So what do you reckon it went for, kids? A wide gaming mouse, RGB, backlit, blah, 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 bullshit. It's just designed to point at pictures. It went for 11,000 effing freaking dollars. What's the deal with that?
So Chad's idea of putting razor in it to get like 250 is a total fail. But I pulled this one out not because it's anything to do with retro gaming. It's because when I was looking through stuff, these mice were going for about $20 to $25 each. And this one had 37 bids and went for $11,000. I have absolutely no idea if it's a money laundering scam, if someone did that as a joke. It's an expensive joke, because if that goes off as a joke, the seller has to pay the fees on that. So I don't know why that is such an anomaly and why 37 people bid it up to $11,000. But there you go. If someone bought that and paid, if I was the seller of the mouse, I'd like, okay, I pack up. That's the end of the year settled for me, kind of thing.
Ironically, had Colin added one extra zero, he would have been right on the hammer with this, but he didn't. And I'll tell you who did, and he was just making up, and I just lost it where it was. I think it was Gavin. He just, I think this is his. Yeah, he just added this number 3827, and he's like $8,000 short or something. But there you go, Mr. Gavin. I think it might be all yours, old son. What do you reckon?
There you go.
And obviously, you're right, Connie. It's totally insane. It doesn't seem right, does it? So, yeah.
That is. I have no idea why that went for so much. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes I find Lego that's gone for stupid prices. But there you go. That is a genuine sold item on eBay.
You know what that will be? That'll be people saying, "Oh, I couldn't travel anywhere because of the COVID lockdown. I've got all this money to spend, so I'm just going to go out and lash out on a friggin' mouse." I know, I don't get it. So, very, very cool. Very good stuff. All right, that actually brings us to our feature presentation, which is obviously a very, very popular one tonight. So what are we talking about, Mr. Aaron?
Well, much like Dags and myself, waiting all through the 80s or the first half of the 80s to see this, tonight you have waited for since the beginning of the year for our look at Return of the Jedi merchandise. Now, this is where we left off with our Empire Strikes Back presentation on Blue Harvest. You might remember that was the secret name for Return of the Jedi, so that people wouldn't know that they were filming a Star Wars movie and come down to the set or overcharge the production because they thought they had Star Wars bucks to send. And Blue Harvest soon became Revenge of the Jedi, which is the name for Return of the Jedi that George Lucas said he put out so bootleggers would put out stuff with the wrong name, and then when Return of the Jedi came in, because revenge isn't a Jedi emotion, all the bootleggers would be caught out. I find that very interesting because I don't remember a flood of bootleg Revenge of the Jedi merchandise in the 80s before Return of the Jedi came out. So that was how we left off our Empire Strikes Back presentation. But today we're all about going back to the early 80s. A lot of us grew up with this movie. Some of us saw it in the cinema when it originally came out. We are looking at Return of the Jedi. So, Dags, do you remember when Return of the Jedi came out? And did you go to the opening day, or do you have any stories from the premiere or your first screening?
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of lucky because I actually got to see the film, one of the first people in the country to see it, which is kind of a bit of a statement, I've got to say, but it's true. So there's a little bit of a story here. So in 1983, we knew Jedi was coming out. Now, for those who remember the Don Lane show in May, they actually had a live cross over to America when the film had just been released. And when they got back to Don Lane, and people are thinking, when's the movie coming out in Australia? And he said, oh, the film won't be out until October. And it's like, October? It's in freaking May, for crying out loud. It's like months away. So I was in high school at the time, and a friend of mine actually suggested, well, if you've got all these months to wait, why don't we go to Fox Studios or the Fox Columbia head office in the city, which is right below where the cinema used to be, the Hoyt Cinema Centre. Go up to Fox and see if we can find out more information about the film, right? So we can put it into our school newspaper. And so the two of it, we're school kids, but like 16-year-old school kids. So we go up to the Fox head office in the city. We go and see the dude who's in charge, Frank Henley. He was in charge of Fox of all of Australia. We sit down at his desk with two dickhead school kids, right? And we ask him about, this is true, all about Return of the Jedi. Now, I'm way out of my element. There's posters over the walls, and this is like a big corporate thing. And I'm just like, freaking hell, where the hell am I? My mate's doing all the talking because he was the cool dude. We barely get like 5 or 6 words into it. And Frank says, oh, okay, look, there's a preview screening of the movie on the 14th of August. And here are, I'm not lying by any stretch, 30 free passes. Bang, bang, right? Boof, there they all go. And there's a couple of posters for you. Essentially, bugger off, right? He was a nice guy. There was nothing wrong with this whatsoever. 30 free passes for a preview screening being held on the Sunday morning. So my friend and I, we divvied up the passes, 15 each. and it was August the 14th. So the film didn't come out until October 26th. So it's like a month and a half early. And it turned out that the Sunday morning screening at Hoyt's Cinema Centre number 1, the 15 free passes that I have and my mate has, front row, right? And we're in the front and the screen, and there's nothing else in front of us except the screen, right? And it was like, and because only the trailers had come out, if that at all, and a little bit of like some spots from America, and we didn't know anything else. And of course, when you're that close to the screen and you're reading the opening crawl, the vile gangster, you haven't to read it like this. It's like, oh my God, this is just mind blowing. And at the end of the movie, you're saying, oh, did you see that bit over there? No, I was too busy looking at that bit over there. It was one of the best film screenings I'd ever been to. And that was how I got to see Return of the Jedi. And with that in mind, I just got to show you something that's actually been important to me personally, right? So I was still in high school when that actually occurred. Now, I went to the school, Princess Hill Secondary College. And one of the things, because now that I was into like the year 10 at this point, year 11, whichever it was, I thought, well, if I'm in high school, I've got to leave a legacy of Star Wars at that school. Okay, now if you've never been there, it's in North Carlton in this place. And so myself and another kid, although he eventually left, painted a mural on the school wall. So this is actually inside. As of a few years ago, it was still there. So this is 30-something years old now, and I effectively painted all of this. And it was a mural on the wall celebrating Star Wars. And, of course, this was when Jedi had come out. So there's a lot of Jedi-related things there. And, it was pretty spectacular. So I did a lot of this myself. And the funny story about the speeder bike guy down here, so notice there's a door here. There was originally no door, right? And I was there the day, because they put a disabled toilet in. I was there the day they brought sledgehammers in and smashed the shit out of my picture, right? They busted it completely, and they put a yellow door there. And I ended up having to go back in and repaint the speeder bike and the biker scout. So, but yeah, that's sort of something that I did, and it's still there. And it's because it's inside, it was protected from the elements, and it's now apparently under a protected trust by the school, so they can't paint over it at any time. So I visited there in 2014. And my name has actually, which used to be down the bottom, way down here, sort of rubbed off over time. So nobody actually knows who painted it, but it was me. And so, yeah, what do you reckon of that?
So you well and truly violated your school. That's
pretty amazing. It's definitely, it's very funny because it's beautiful. It's very funny because I left school when it was still being painted, and I had to go back into my free time and actually finish it off. And I realized afterwards that I was going to put in all these explosions and all this sort of stuff just to make it a bit more colorful, and I just completely forgot. And if you're thinking about the blue colored wall, we didn't match up the blue. So we just painted the blue. Then we ran out of paint, and we thought, what's the color blue we had? We had to try and match up some more paint. And, of course, that didn't work. So, but that's my legacy that I left. And Return of the Jedi was one of the reasons for it. So there you go.
When you got the 15 free passes, were you the most popular person that anyone could know at the time? Did everyone want to go, or did you find it hard to find 15 people?
No, it was pretty easy. I mean, back then, of course, it wasn't just your friends, their parents as well. Like my mother went along and a mate and his mother. We had one kid. We had to ring him up, and he said, "We've got a spare one here. Get your ass down." He had to go to his push bike and ride down to the city as fast as he could. It's like, dude, it's starting in 15 minutes. Get your ass down here straight away. But that was how I got to see Return of the Jedi, August the 14th, 1983.
Well,
so
now my story seems like a piece of piss compared to that. But
hang on, I'm going to just catch off. So. Where's the Ewoks? I deliberately didn't put any of the good guys in there. If you notice, it's all the Imperial Empire. I said, no, one, I don't want to have to paint faces of like the main cast, and I just wanted to paint the bad guys. And that's the reason why it's a celebration to the Imperial Empire. That's why I focus on it. Sorry, go for it, mate.
So I originally saw Return of the Jedi on the weekend. It came out at the Baronia Twin when I was growing up. I was only 10 years old, but by that time I was aware of, movies and wanting to see them and fandom a little bit and having to see it before my friends. So my parents were good enough. I went and saw it with my mum and my brother on the day not the day it came out, because it probably came out midweek on a Thursday, but I saw it on the Saturday morning. And I remember being one of the first people at school to see it. And I might have told you this story before, but when we were growing up, going to the movies was kind of an event because it cost money and, it was a bit of an outing. And we only usually got to see 3 or 4 movies a year, like usually one in each school holidays, and that was it. And we saw Return of the Jedi when it came out, would have been about October after you saw it. And then we got to the summer holidays and we were allowed to pick the one movie we wanted to see, and that was still in the cinema. And my brother and I, we want to see Return of the Jedi again. And my parents thought we were nuts. I remember them going, you want us to pay to see a movie a second time? You've already seen it at the cinema. Why don't you pick a different movie? And we were like, no, we want to see Return of the Jedi again. And my parents thought we were nuts paying to see a movie twice at the cinema.
With that in mind, I painted Aaron's shirt. Yeah, you remember I was only 16 when I did that wall too. So if I did it today, I'd do it way differently. But you're talking about seeing movies more than once, right? So friends and I were actually at the back of Hoyt Cinema one time, and we could actually think, like we're looking at doors to try and sneak into the movies, right? And we actually lean against one door. We hear this really heavy rumbling, and we're thinking, oh shit, that's the start of Jedi with the ship passing over the top, the Star Destroyer. It's right at the beginning of the movie. The door's open. Let's sneak in. This is like months after it'd been in the cinemas, right? This is why you don't sneak into cinemas. So we get into the cinema, we look up the screen there, the gigantic part at the start of the movie, the Star Destroyer and the Death Star and whatever. Half the audience is sitting right at the back. All the seats at the front are empty. Sneak in, sit down quietly. And as I did that, I smacked my elbow on the arm of the chair. And I tell you what, hit the funny bone, and my whole arm went to sleep for the whole 2 hours. And I thought, that's my karma for sneaking into the friggin' cinema. And I never did it again.
Well, just before we get into the presentation, I have one more story. I was 10 when Return of the Jedi came out. And for my 10th birthday, it was all Jedi themed. And I received this birthday card, which is Darth Vader. I don't know if you can read it. It says, do you know what Darth Vader does on his birthday? Anything he wants. And there's the inside of the card. But interestingly enough, I was a big Doctor Who fan. My brother was the Star Wars fan. And somewhere along our life's journey, I gave him all my Star Wars stuff, and he gave me all the Doctor Who stuff because, we collected just specifically that. But down the track, my brother sold most of his Star Wars collection. And a friend of mine who's a big Star Wars collector up in Brisbane, Paul Naylor, got this card. And he saw it with to Aaron, lots of love from mum and dad. And he knows I'm Aaron with one A. And he contacted me earlier this year and said, look, I've got this card in my collection. Is it yours? And it was. So I'm 47. I got it when I was 10. It went all around Australia, wound up in Brisbane, and I got it back a couple of weeks ago. So how amazing is that?
Absolutely love it. Very, very cool. So yeah, you are right. It does go to show that we've got a lot of history covering this particular topic, so which is particularly cool. So there you go. And you're right. It is absolutely incredible. I like this here, Dalek Vader. Yeah, good on you. Yes. Anyway, move on.
So here we go. A Return of the Jedi was, when it opened, for all intents and purposes, as popular as Star Wars and as popular as Empire Strikes Back. Cinemas in America were open 24 hours a day, playing the movie around the clock to cater for the amount of people who wanted to see this movie. And with Return of the Jedi, Empire had ended on a cliffhanger. A lot of people wanted to know how it resolved. So you wanted to see it before your friends did, so you didn't get spoiled. The internet was not around then, but you would still, go to school and your friends would go, can you believe it? Not only is Darth Vader Luke's father, but Leia is his sister.
Do you remember were you actually around at the premiere night? Because they actually blocked off Burke Street, for those who've got a really good memory, between Swanson and Russell Street, and they had like Triple M or Fox or whatever doing a big concert thing, and that's when it premiered in the Mid-City Cinema. Did you actually go to that? Do you remember that at all?
I didn't go to that. I actually remember it being on the radio and hearing about that, and that was one of the reasons I knew it was opening soon, and badgering my parents to go and see it. So
it was actually the first time they'd ever shut down a city street for a film premiere. So there you go. And the reason why I remember that is because I actually ended up with a Darth Vader costume like this dude over here, except I made mine except for the helmet. But it sort of reminded me of that. But that was a really, really big event at the time. It was the premiere of Jedi. So yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah. So it was a big movie, and when you get big movies, you get a lot of merchandise, and Star Wars was no stranger to merchandise. So this is some of the print material for Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi didn't get as good as reviews as Empire Strikes Back, but they were still mainly positive. One of the main criticisms with the Return of the Jedi that ran through the reviews that I was reading is maybe there was more work put into creatures and monsters than there was on the story. As a kid, I didn't care about that. As a kid, my favorite parts were the cantina scene and from Star Wars and the bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back. So seeing Jabba's court and all of the weird creatures was mind-blowing. And then going to Endor with biker scouts and speeder bikes and Ewoks, that was mind-blowing too. No matter what anyone says about Ewoks, as a kid, I thought it was absolutely amazing and didn't have any complaints about Return of the Jedi. So Return of the Jedi fueled my desire to collect Star Wars memorabilia.
Yeah, talking about Ewoks, even in that preview screening when the explosion occurs and the two Ewoks get blown up and one dies and the other one doesn't, right? Oh, that was a 12 Kleenex tissue moment. That one is like bawled your eyes out over that. You laugh about it years later, but at the time it was
funny you
dramatic.
should say that, because the Princess Leia metal bikini was also a 12 Kleenex scene as well, wasn't it?
Don't bring up Greg's crackers again, Jesus Christ. Anyway.
So here's some interesting print ads, because these are Australian print ads. Two of them are for screenings. The only ones I could find are in New South Wales, actually, but there's the Carlingford Mall and there's an advanced screening and how you can get to an advanced screening. And what did the ABC do to celebrate the release of Return of the Jedi? They played the PBS Empire Strikes Back radio play. It debuted in Australia publicly for the premiere of Return of the Jedi. So that's why we've got Yoda there. Now, Gavin, that is apparently a really impossible magazine to find. I've only ever seen one in person in 40 years of collecting. So if you're a Yoda fan, if you've got that in your collection, I'd be very impressed.
Which he does.
So he's got it. He's got that magazine. That is an incredibly hard. That is one of the rarest items of Australian merchandise. If you get on eBay and look for that magazine 24 hours, you can't even find any issues of it for sale, let alone the Star Wars one.
Yeah, exactly right. And very, very cool. And of course, it all got promoted on TV and where else. And this is something you wanted to show. Is that right, old son? Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, hard drops asleep.
Now, that is the oldest version of the trailer I could find. And I tell you what, that's how you make a spoiler-free trailer, isn't it?
For those people who are actually Star Trek fans out there, they might be thinking, what's the connection between Star Trek and Revenge of the Jedi? For those who don't know, Star Trek to the Wrath of Khan was originally going to be called Star Trek to the Vengeance of Khan. And good old Mr. Lucas had a bit of a barney with the people over at Paramount and said, no, that sounds too sounds too similar to Revenge. So they changed their movie to Wrath of Khan. But of course, no movie called Revenge of the Jedi ever came out. But there you go. True story. So if you ever want to do collectibles on Star Trek to the Vengeance of Khan, there are barely a handful, but they do exist. So
they do exist, yeah. And I think the Wrath of Khan sounds better.
Yeah, it does. So there you go. You are a grant. Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore. That's probably good because that was pretty boring, wasn't it? Just a few photos and that was about it. Anybody could put that together. A few photos of a few magazines and away you go. So there you go.
Yes, we'll henceforward call that the PowerPoint preview. So the print ads for Return of the Jedi, I didn't think the print ads were as good as for Empire Strikes Back. They were striking and they have some really iconic imagery, but after Empire Strikes Back, I've got to say I was a little bit disappointed by the posters that came out. It really bugged me as a kid, and this is one of those things that, as a kid, it doesn't really matter when you grow up, but in that first poster, Luke has a blue lightsaber and Vader has the red one, because we all know Luke has the green lightsaber, but in a lot of the promotion, it was blue. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think they changed it because when they were fighting in daylight, you couldn't see the blue lightsaber against the Tatooine sun as well as they wanted it to.
Yeah, that's exactly what the problem was. They realized that blue on blue and the saber just vanished. And they said, shit, that isn't going to work. So they changed it to green, and it was the only reason why they did it. So suddenly you had a blue saber and you had a green saber. But yeah, imagine that, a blue blade on a blue sky, and it's just like nothing there at all. And then I don't know if you knew this. In terms of modeling, there were George Lucas's hands down on that poster down there.
Yep.
And it took me years to realize that that's actually the Death Star right next to the forest moon of Endor, right there in the corner. It's like, yeah, bloody hell.
So there
cool.
you go. The Death Star is pretty huge.
One thing I will tell you about the Vile. The Vile, as we know, is a very, very creative guy. And what he did is he actually took a picture of the Vader image from here and once had it painted on the back of a velvet cloak for the Return of the Jedi 30th anniversary banquet in 2013. Absolutely spectacular. Absolutely loved it. And he did a necktie as well. He's a very, very creative guy. I've only ever seen it once, and hopefully he's still got it. So, but you are right about the posters. They were a little bit different. No denying that at all. So, yeah, very, very cool.
So we've got a few slides of posters because there were a lot of variants and international versions for Return of the Jedi. Most of them were a variation of the 3 or 4 common ones that we've all seen. There are
I was waiting for you to ask me. I was waiting for you to ask me if I got any Revenge of the Jedi posters, and the answer is I've got 2 of them. So there you go.
Have you got any Return of the Jedi posters, Dags?
Yeah, most of the ones you're showing I've actually got or had. I've sold a lot of them off, but yes, I did actually have a lot of them.
But you kept the 2 Revenge ones.
Yeah, I've still got them at this stage. Yep.
Yeah. So here's the campaign that I remember most of is the one on the left there. I did think the Death Star exploding in the poster was a bit of a spoiler, which they used
just a bit,
international stuff, which maybe people didn't realize it was the Death Star, but
it was. Hang on, but it was a re-release. This was like an 85 at this point, 84, 85. So most people had seen the movie. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But still, it is, if you're going in cold, a bit of a spoiler on the poster there.
Yeah, true.
The classic thing there is, of course, you've got the lineup up the center of that poster with Leia and Han and Luke and Vader sort of in prominence going up the poster, which I think is very good because Vader is dominating over all of them, and then you have all the characters to the side of that. To the side of the main cast.
Which you would think the Ewok would be Wicket, but that doesn't look like Wicket to me. It looks like a much older version of an Ewok, and you do wonder why the hell they put that in there.
It looks like Wicket's been at the pie drawer. It looks like a bit of a fat version of Wicket, doesn't it? So.
Actually, I'll tell you a funny story. When I did see the premiere of the movie, in the sequence where Leia gives Wicket something to eat, do you want something to eat? Behind me, some people said, "Oh, teddy bear biscuits," and I laughed. That's absolute classic.
An oldie, but it's still a good joke.
It's a good point. Where's Yoda? And they probably didn't put him in. Maybe it's just as a surprise. But yeah, it's an interesting omission, that's for sure. And there's no R2 or 3PO in this big poster over here either. So yeah, good point.
Well, weren't Yoda some of the last bits filmed for Return of the Jedi because they had a lot of trouble with the puppet on Empire, and they weren't sure if it was just going to be Obi-Wan doing all the plot reveal rather than the Yoda puppet, but then at the last minute they were like, no, Yoda has to come back. He can't be dead because he's so popular with the audience.
Well, you could be right, and I'm not 100% sure, but he does appear on this one up here, so there's Yoda there. So, but yeah, for the main poster, yeah, it's interesting. There's a few omissions, absolutely. So, yeah, interesting.
Here we go. So we're getting into some of the international posters, and then again, of course, I love the Russian and the sort of Eastern European posters with Czechoslovakia and Poland always coming out with the really crazy stuff. I do think the international poster campaign was pretty incredible. I always did wonder with the one with Vader's exploding head and the red guard on Vader's chest if they had kind of thought that the Imperial Guard costume was going to factor into Vader more. The other one I find interesting on the bottom right there, it looks like the Imperious leader is looming in the background. And then, of course, the great Czech and sort of Russian posters there sort of are very, very inspired by Star Wars, but take a lot of artistic merit on what they actually display. And some of these posters are very expensive and quite hard to find now.
I remember first seeing that Polish one with the exploding Vader's head. And I think we saw it in a magazine or something back in 1980, whatever it was. And it was like, what the friggin' hell were these guys smoking when they thought of this? What movie are they watching?
This is one of those things before the internet. Like, you would not see any of these posters because you didn't see international posters. So a book like the Star Wars Chronicles had come out, and, you know, that'd be 10 years after Return of the Jedi. And you would see for the first time the international print campaign. And like Dags, you'd go, what the hell were they thinking with some of the stuff they pictured? But at the time, I would go, I don't want that poster. That's crap. And now I look at it and go, those are amazing. I would love to have those posters. So
yeah, it's funny how things change over a period of time, don't they? Yeah.
Yep. And then, of course, one of my favorites is the Japanese posters because I always think that the Japanese print looks pretty amazing on movie posters. I've got to say, they're a little bit underwhelming when it comes to the Jedi ad campaign. I don't know if the light blue and the red works as well as some of the whites and silvers on the older posters that we've had before. And again, the poster montage on the last poster on the right there, it's kind of not as artistic and fantastic as when we looked at the Empire campaign that they did, which is some of the best posters in the trilogy's history. So what do you think of the Japanese posters for Jedi?
Look, they're different, and it's a different style, and it's a different look, and it works for some people, doesn't work for others. I know you can get some of these designs on T-shirts
Yes.
because of the fact they're Japanese, and of course, Japan did a lot in terms of merchandising for the Star Wars movie. So I think it's just a different way, a different style. One of the things they did have, though, is that they produced. We probably have it in one of the pictures later on. Is they produced a book which is full of all these photos from the movie, and of course, you had to read it backwards. And it was actually one of the only times you ever got to see photographs from the movie of Vader's helmet removed, and you got Sebastian Shaw as Anakin Skywalker. He's like, because that was one of the greatest secrets of all time, and yet sure enough, you could buy it in this photo novel, if you will, this large photo novel from Japan. So they clearly they realized it was the way to go. So yeah, very, very cool. Love it.
So I think Joe's saying the Hungarian poster on the top are fabulous. We'll have to do one episode just on Hungarian posters and some of those. But here is the Return of the Jedi poster magazine. And I remember this in the newsagents and being blown away because the poster magazine came out here before the movie did. And because it was from overseas, there was spoilers in it. And I remember, like the trading cards, they didn't hold anything back. So it was probably my first views of the Ewoks. And I remember thinking how cute the Wokling was on one of the poster magazines and being impressed by the speeder bikes and sort of hanging out to see the speeder bike chase because it was talked up so much about what an incredible sequence in the film it was. So yeah, these fold-out posters were absolutely amazing, and I'm sure a lot of kids who grew up during Return of the Jedi had these posters up on their walls. So even now, that they are easy to find, but even now you do find them with blue tack marks on the outside because they were well used. And they're a great concept. They have posters of some of the most iconic images from Star Wars, and then they have reports and behind the scenes on some of the most impressive scenes from the movies as well. So it's a no-brainer that they're going to sell 1 million copies of those.
A lot of people looked at this one down here with the B-Wing fighters, and they go, where was that in the movie? And as it turned out, they edited out and cut out all the B-Wing stuff. So if you see at the start when they first lock in their S-foils, the wings come up, and then you never see a B-Wing ever again after that. So all the B-Wing footage just got deleted. So what?
And I actually think that's a piece of artwork as well. I don't think that's models. Isn't that a Ralph McQuarrie maybe?
No, I think you'll find it's a composite shot. It's probably a bit of both because I don't know about the Star Destroyer in the background, but the B-Wings themselves, I think you'll find are actually photographs. It was just deleted footage they'd never used in the movie. It was like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, a lot of people will select and go, wow, that's awesome. Where's that in the film? Wasn't there. Got deleted. But yeah, the actual poster magazines themselves, yeah, they were very, very groovy. And you ended up on a lot of bedroom walls. No denying that at all.
Yeah. And this was a high C poster promotion for giveaways in the US. We didn't get this here, but I have always thought the artwork on this was absolutely amazing. And I think it's interesting because you see the placement of the sticker with new Return of the Jedi characters right over Jabba the Hutt. But on the left down the bottom, I've got the full picture of Jabba the Hutt there. I think they maybe thought Jabba was a bit too grotesque, so they covered it up with a sticker.
Well, there's two ways of looking at it. One is to cover Jabba and also to cover the fact that Leia's been captured by Jabba. So it's a bit of a double whammy there in terms of saving no spoilers. I like this one from good old Rico about the Rancor is still one of the best monsters on film. And it looked fantastic in the movie, but whenever they showed the sequences of the matting between the Rancor and Luke, I mean, the matting was horrendous. It was like they outsourced it to another visual effects company, and the matte lines were shit house, and the coloring didn't match, and they never even fixed it for the special edition. So that was the only thing that was really disappointing about the Rancor. But anyway, it's just one of those bugbears if you're an FX fan. But yeah, but you are right, though. A strategically placed sticker does wonders. In fact, there's a couple of them. So yeah,
I think George Lucas's notes for the Rancor was like a gorilla crossed with a potato or something like that, and it really does look like that. So it is a totally fantastic creature.
Yep.
These are some of the posters. Some of the posters I remember, and I couldn't actually find examples of them for sale, but I could find pictures of the ads for them. So if you look at that ad for the Return of the Jedi poster and it's got the 5 posters around it, those posters used to be everywhere in Australia. They'd be rolled up and you could buy all 5 of them. And I looked on eBay and around and even for pictures of them online and I could find very little. So it shows you how popular Australian merchandise is and how hard it is getting to find it. And so there's another poster campaign from the US there, which has a lot of pictures from Jabba's court. You've got the classic one with Luke and the Palace Blaster and Leia and Jabba. And then Lando on the skiff blowing up, and of course Ewoks meeting R2D2. The other one I remember, I couldn't find an example of this poster, but I know it existed because it was up on my wall. The Death Star run where you've got the speed blur on the interior of the Death Star. I had that laminated on my wall for about 10 years, but again, I could not find any information on that poster at all. So if you collect Return of the Jedi posters, there's a lot of them out there and a lot of variants and some surprises that you can find, I'm sure.
Totally agree. Greg made mention of the B-Wings, that he loved them. Funny enough about the B-Wing design is the cockpit was supposed to rotate inside the ship, so the body would go, but the cockpit would stay in the same spot. But you're in space, so what's the point of that? But
yes,
anyway, one of those gags. But yes, you do bring back a lot of memories when you sort of see these images. And of course, this is the first time, like in the posters, you see like Chewbacca, and it's a bit hard to see in this photo. He went for the blow wave look. They changed the way that Chewbacca looked, and I thought, I don't think a lot of fans really went for that. So he had his hair coming forward like this, and you go, yeah, okay, he's I didn't understand what the deal was with that, but yeah. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, I do. And I always just thought between films, the characters aged and changed, and Chewbacca, like, people change their hairstyle, so Chewie can too.
Very good. So the vial is mentioned about the Death Star destroyer crashing into the Death Star was a big disappointment. Funnily enough, in the novel, it makes a lot more sense because they're about to blow up Endor, or the forest moon of Endor, because it's not actually Endor. And just as they're about to push the button to do it, the Star Destroyer crashes and turns it off its orbit, and as a result, the forest moon of Endor was saved. But they obviously didn't do that in the film. So, yeah. Anyway,
I think that's in the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray. You can find, I think it's Moff Jarrett is in charge of blowing up Endor, and he complains. He says, "But all my best men are down there," and they're like, "Blow it up anyway."
It's the way the Empire works. Yeah, when in doubt, wipe it out. Exactly right.
So here is the Return of the Jedi stickers. Now, these stickers drove me absolutely nuts because generally if you buy a box of cards, you get a set. You buy a box of stickers and you open all of them and you've still only got half the set. And the thing that annoyed me with these stickers, there were multi stickers to build one picture. And if you didn't get the ones out of the same box to build the picture, you invariably got ones that were slightly different color or slightly miscut. So no matter how careful you were putting the stickers into the sticker album, it looked like you couldn't stick them in properly, or it all looked weird. So I've had one nice sticker album complete, and I've got a set of the loose stickers somewhere, but it is incredibly hard. They're easy stickers to find, incredibly hard to get a nice set that sort of look uniform. And if you look down the side there are different sticker albums from different countries. These were hugely popular. So there's the American and Australian and English version, but there's also a German version and another European version down there as well. So if you're after Return of the Jedi and collecting stickers, it is incredibly challenging to get all the different versions in different sets.
And it was a huge pain in the ass when you were missing a sticker or two, as you said, and you're missing one. You need like 4 in the grid, and you only got 3, and you got the gap, and you go, it looks shit.
The one thing that was good, it had this thing on the packets, and it might even been in the back of the album. You could send away for up to 5 stickers you needed and send, a money order for 50 cents, and you could get them that way. And I do remember doing that a couple of times to try and complete the collection, but that was a hard collection to complete.
Yeah. But they did look good once they were all. You're right. The whole album was filled up. It was like your Jedi trials. It's like, I've passed the Jedi trials. My book is complete and looking really, really cool. I certainly remember when these came out. These were like really, really popular.
Now, this is something we haven't looked at before. We're looking at the stickers, but these are puffy stickers. And for Return of the Jedi, they decided the future for Star Wars was puffy. And the people who made puffy stickers, they were obviously given a black and white stencil of what the characters looked like, and then they potluck colored them in. And sometimes they were successful, but sometimes you'd get a totally blue R2 unit that looks like something more from the prequels than actually R2D2 from Return of the Jedi. You've got a lime green Rancor in the set in the top left corner there, and that's under Leia in her sky blue Ewok costume. So these are quite interesting stickers in that at the time they were cheap disposable things and probably weren't in sort of serious collections, and now they're amazing things to find because they've got all this wild coloring because they're puffy. Yes. Stay puff. But there's some Yodas and there's some Ewok stickers. And the thing you did see with Return of the Jedi, in previous Star Wars movies, I think the merchandise was generally aimed at everyone. So it was aimed at kids, but adults would collect it as well. But with Return of the Jedi, they did start doing, the Ewoks for younger kids type of stickers. So you got these characters that weren't in the movie, with Wicket going off on his own adventures. So Return of the Jedi was where they started aiming at different year levels to merchandise to sort of maximize the amount of returns they were going to get from the franchise. So here's an interesting look at Puffy stickers.
I love the scale muck-up. You've got Jabba the Hutt here. There's a little green thing in the center, and you've got Salacious Crumb over here. You reckon they got the scale a bit out of whack? Well, if they were going to get Salacious to his scale, he'd be only like this big.
Well, William says what I was thinking. He looks like Slimer from Ghostbusters more than Jabba the Hutt, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's not exactly very threatening at all. So there you go. And of course, one of the greatest banes of collectors in the entire universe, of course, when they came out, was trading cards.
Trading cards. And again, with Return of the Jedi, we got one set of cards where there are actually two different sets. We got the original red set. There was a blue set that wasn't released in Australia. Scanlan's released them in Australia. Topps released them in America. The Scanlan's cards are infinitely harder to get than the Topps ones, but Return of the Jedi Scanlans are the easiest of the Star Wars Scanlan sets to collect. I always liked the blue set better, and I'll tell you why. Just because of that one picture I've highlighted of Luke Skywalker chopping Boba Fett's blaster with his lightsaber, which I thought was one of the coolest trading cards ever. And when I discovered the blue set of American cards and saw that card made me buy the entire set overpriced at one of those 90s card shops instantly. So before the internet, I think those sets of cards were going for about 199 Australian. After the internet, where you can get them straight from America, they were $20 plus postage. But the Return of the Jedi set I have very fond memories of, because that was one set that I did collect when it came out, traded with my friends, got the entire set, upgraded a couple of cards to make sure I had a nice set and kept them away. And I still have my original set of Return of the Jedi trading cards. Did you collect, Dags?
Yeah, I did. So that was the thing. So back then you did sort of do that, but I wasn't aware, like you said, of the other sets existing, and that was frustrating when I eventually found out. But that was just the thing you did back then. So because you didn't know any different, so it was good.
And comic books are interesting for Return of the Jedi because the Star Wars comic had been chugging along pretty regularly, and they did the adaptation of Empire, and then they just went back to their own stories, and they did the same with Return of the Jedi. And when Return of the Jedi came out, I remember getting it for Christmas the year it came out in a 4-comic set. So even though there was 4 issues for Return of the Jedi, I would have got one of those comic packs at the top that had all 4 of them in, and opened it and read it. And I thought it was a really good adaptation of the movie. And you can see they released it in a couple of different versions. So there's that magazine version with the fantastic painted cover of Luke and Vader and all the ships sort of zooming out. There was a hardback version of that as well. And there was a couple of other versions of the Return of the Jedi comic. It was a very popular comic.
Not only that, it was actually based on the original screenplay. So some of the deleted scenes ended up in the comic, like the sandstorm after the Jabba's thing blows up and the ships take off and all that. So they actually included that because that was cut out of the film later, but this was produced before then. So
more interestingly, if we talk about the cards, there's the scene in that with Luke in the card, a picture of him hanging onto the grid when he's the Rancor, and there's also that in the storybook. So because I had the storybook and the cards and looked at them constantly and only saw the movie, once or twice before videos years later, in my mind, I saw that at the cinema because it was the version I was, knew and loved.
Yeah, that was always the issue when you saw a picture on a card and you go, I don't remember that in the film, and your brain's just going completely, because you're not even aware of deleted scenes. That just didn't even register when you're only like 16 years old. So, I know exactly right.
So these are some of the other comics that were released around the time of Return of the Jedi. And one of the things I loved is the English weekly, which used the stories from the Marvel, but it was in more of a magazine size, and they would put free prizes with it and use different covers. And obviously they knew at the time that Boba Fett was a popular character, because you can see during the run of Return of the Jedi, even though he was only in the film for a couple of minutes, not seconds, but a couple of minutes, he got covers on the comics because he was so popular with fans. I do remember thinking that Boba Fett was going to turn up on Endor because he would have got out of the Sarlacc pit and come after them. So I was disappointed that he didn't turn up in the rest of the movie I thought his role was going to be greater when I originally saw Return of the Jedi.
The biggest issue I had with Fed is when you first see him in Jabba's palace, they had him flipped around the wrong way to get his orientation correct. And because he's got the antenna, the rangefinder, when it's on the wrong side of the helmet, you go, hang on, that's wrong. And of course, that's also in the sequence when he pulls the gun up, right? And of course, they obviously filmed him in a different direction, realize, hang on, he's pointing the wrong direction to where the others are, the thermal detonator, and they've had to flip it around. But it's like they couldn't fix the aerial. And it was like, oh my God, it was horrendous. And that was the first time he appeared on screen. It's like, oh, pain. Anyway, not to worry. Yeah, I've got to build a bridge, move on, get over it.
Here's something interesting, and I didn't even really realize this, but these are Return of the Jedi icy poles from Australia, and they released them through Peter's, and they released them through Paul's with exactly the same design and exactly the same product, but they're competing companies as far as I know. So on the left, you've got the Peter's ice cream, the Return of the Jedi, and then on the right, you've got the Paul's ice cream, Return of the Jedi. And what is annoying for me is I didn't know there were two versions you have to collect, and these are damn hard to find. I think we had it on one of our eBay things that one of those boxes can go from $600 to $1,000, and the wrappers are about $250 each. So suddenly finding you've got to get two of everything because there is a variant between companies could be a bit annoying. Down the bottom, even though it's got Luke on it and it's Star Wars, that icy pole was released for Return of the Jedi, and the wrapper you can see you could get from Toll Toys a free Admiral Akbar figure if you sent away with so many icy pole vouchers. I don't remember sending away for it, even though I did get some free Admiral Akbars from somewhere at the time.
Well, did you get Akbars or snack bars? Because they're a food item. You do wonder if somebody had bought a whole box of either one, Peter's or Paul's ice creams, and put them in their freezer for nearly almost 40 years. Was it 38 years or something? You reckon they'd be worth a fair whack of dollars or what?
a kiss box from the 70s that someone had kept frozen went for, I think, 50,000 American.
And people wonder why I kept Batman ice creams in the fridge. So there you go.
And this is for those who want to try and collect something a bit different. I've never seen any of these in person. This was the Tip Tops New Zealand Return of the Jedi Ice Lolly, which came with cards that you could collect. Now, I have never seen any of these cards for sale, so these must be a pretty expensive international item to try and find. I think the different colours on that icy pole is kind of more attractive than the one we got in Australia, but it's nice to know that both countries got Jedi jelly in the middle of them.
Jedi jelly. So very, very cool. I like it. Collect all four. That's it. You never get one. You got to get the lot. Collect all four while stocks last. So yeah, exactly right. Love it. Very cool.
And these are Return of the Jedi glasses. So there was a couple of campaigns around the world at different fast food outlets, usually Burger King, or Coca-Cola, and you could collect the glasses and get a different one each week. And I have got to say the Return of the Jedi glasses were quite attractive. It was actually hard to find any really good pictures of them because really if you take pictures of glass art, you've got to put a piece of paper on the inside so it shows up sort of better. But you can see they're very colourful and they depict different scenes from the movie. And I think the thing with Return of the Jedi, it was very marketable because there was an embarrassment of riches for merchandisers to choose if they wanted to use images. There's all the stuff on Tatooine with Jabba's palace and the sail barge, and then there's all the stuff with the Death Star and the space battles, and then there's all the stuff on Endor as well. So the movies were very toyetic, as the toy industry says, where you could choose a lot of different imagery to use in your merchandising. Now, these glasses are a nice set, and you can get them still if you look on eBay, although the price of all this stuff's been going up recently.
Yeah, so they're not 55 cents, as you see there. And once again, they've gotten wind of the fact that it's like, oh, you're buying one, doesn't cut the mustard. Collect all four. So there you go. So if you only get one or two, you're somewhat insignificant. What can I say, eh? So, but yeah, I do agree with you. They do look pretty spectacular. There's no denying that at all.
What I used to hate, and this is something that a lot of collectors would have got, you go 3 weeks running and you get the different glass every week, and you go on the 4th week and they go, we're already sold out, so here's the Hello Kitty glass that we're not sold out of from 3 months ago. And you're just like, I only came to McDonald's to finish off this set. And, it's a pain for the collector, but it's probably a pain for the poor people that work at McDonald's who have all these Return of the Jedi fans going, give me this week's cup.
Yeah, and it's not like people are thinking at the time, I'm going to be hanging on to this for the next 30 years of my life. So no, you just don't think that way. But it's what happens.
Candy heads. So this is one of those things that they've done them for a lot of movies. There was the Batman and Joker ones, but we looked at the Empire Strikes Back ones, and they did a bunch for Return of the Jedi. And the Return of the Jedi heads were an interesting spread. There was only Vader that had been used before. They did Ewoks and Jabba the Hutt and Admiral Akbar, Watling, and sliced noodles, which is a bit of an unusual choice, I thought, but it must have been something that was put out in the advertising material and some companies sort of latched up onto. But they're still a really nice set. If you can get a full display box in a collection, they look quite good. What is interesting, I don't have one now, but I had one, but I held off getting one because for the longest time, if you look at the closed box in the center there, it looks like there's a bit of damage on the top where there's like a bit of a peel where the red is missing. And it took me a couple of years to realize that was actually the feather in Sliced Noodle's head. And all the boxes are like that. They weren't all damaged in the same place.
Just there. Yeah, right. Yeah, good on you. That was very, very good. I like the fact that it's loaded with candy. So you can almost interpret that in different ways. But yeah, Sliced Noodles, that is a different one, isn't it? So yeah, very cool.
And we've got some of the Return of the Jedi stationery sets here. Now, I do remember getting stationery sets in Australia, and I had a Return of the Jedi pencil case with pencils and an eraser and a pencil sharpener and things like that. Some of these were available in Australia, some of them weren't. That top one in sort of the middle left that has the 3 erasers, the orange Falcon and the yellow C-3PO head, and that they were in Australia reject shops for years. They were in all the $2 and dimmies, and they were about 20 cents for a good 10 years after the movie was out of the cinema. And you can still go on eBay, and people have got 4 boxes of them, but they're selling for about $20 a pack now. So you can see that they did make a lot of this stuff, and it didn't all sell amazingly well.
See, it's kind of lucky they were using the American terminology, because otherwise in Australia it would be glow-in-the-dark rubbers, and that has a completely different connotation associated with it. And I'm not being facetious. That's actually what we call them. So there you go. But you are right. There's a lot of stationery stuff that came out at the time, and I definitely remember those 3 erasers. Yeah, you're right. They were just like, I reckon even today they still wouldn't have any value. So because of millions and billions produced. But yes, we used to see them at Skyforce all the time.
I actually had the Royal Guard one, and I never used it because, if you used it, you'd erase like his head would disappear. And I was a collector, so I was like, well, I've got this eraser, but I'm never ever going to use it. So I wonder if MPS has the Royal Guard.
Yeah, you would think so. And speaking of Royal Guards, of course, we've got more Royal Guard stuff.
Now, these are interesting. We're looking at Return of the Jedi money boxes. Now, the money boxes came out globally, but the one that's really interesting there is the Gamorrean Guard, because the Gamorrean Guard was advertised on the back of the American box as one of the ones that you could collect them all, and it only came out in Australia, and I think it was even a giveaway at the Commonwealth Bank. Now, I had the Gamorrean Guard, and, it's an incredibly rare piece, but in Australia, it isn't as rare as the rest of the world. But what is rare is the little plug that goes in the bottom of the Gamorrean Guard, because once that's gone, you're never going to find another one. So I have found the plug that goes in the bottom of the guard is worth just as much as the entire money box. You can see there that Darth Vader is very proud of his codpiece as well.
Once again, continuing on with the theme mentioned earlier, collect them all. How many money boxes does a person need? So instead of just buying them for a kid and saying, oh, the kid just needs one money box of his favorite character to stick his coins in. No, you've got to have them all. So there's a trend here that is really starting to form. And I think other merchandisers twigged that, psychologically get into the kid's head saying, I need all of them, even though I might only use one, or I actually need to like one. And the fact you got an Ewok down here with a tambourine, well, it looks like a tambourine anyway. You would end up buying characters you didn't want because the thing says collect them all. So,
well, if you do collect them all, you end up with no money to put inside them. So it's an oxymoron, isn't it? But you are right. And I separated these into 2 separate things because again, even though it's collect them all in the same series, you can see that the Ewok ones at the top are in different packaging and aimed at a much younger audience. And you do have like the tambourine Ewok, which I don't remember in the scene where the Ewoks join the Hare Krishnas. Do you? And then you've got, again, on the side of the boxes for the R2-D2, collect them all with the big Gamorrean guard that wasn't available for anyone to get. Down in the bottom left there is an interesting one. It's one of those money boxes which sorts the coins as you put them in. So you put the coin in, and as it rolls down, it drops down into different denominations. And there was a Return of the Jedi one that I didn't know existed and had never had in my collection. And then on the other side, you've got the Jabba the Hutt money box, and that leads into our next lot of collectibles, because it's the Sigma collection. Now, they were a company that did bisque pottery, and I do remember, like, when I'd had these, thought they looked pretty ugly and crude from the 80s, but I've got to say, when you put them behind glass and do a display like that, they actually don't look too bad. I was actually impressed by that display when I found it online. The hardest one to get there, I've always found, is actually, again, the Rebo band. I think I've had every other one at one point or the other, but I have never had the Rebo band. And you can still pick these up for relatively cheap. What I found interesting with this set, they did all the major characters and Klaatu. And they did a series of mugs as well. And again, Klaatu got his own mug head. So there must have been at some point with the advertising material that they were giving to franchises, they were going, and Jabba the Hutt and Bid Fortuna and Gamorrean guards and Klaatu, who was kind of this sort of background guard. But nevertheless, if you've got a Klaatu focus, you can get your Sigma mug and your Sigma figure, and it adds to your collection.
Maybe they're watching the day the Earth stood still when they were thinking of who they should market next, and they saw Klaatu in that, and they go, he'll do. He looks different, but it doesn't matter.
Yes, and
go on.
I was going to say, just of course, the most popular one there is Boba Fett, of course, not because it's a better figure, just because there's so many people that collect just Boba Fett.
Yeah. It's a very good comment here from good old Rico regarding the money boxes. How much money would you save filling Vader versus R2-D2? So, yeah, right. Maybe you would pick the smallest character of the whole lot, because that way you don't have to chuck so many coins in it. And back those days, the 1 and 2 cent pieces were running right. What can I say? So,
C-3POs are like the illustrious Jabba will accept your coins in the slot in the back right now.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. 50.
And so here is what I was saying. They did the series of figures, and they also did a series of mugs that were heads. And you can see I've got pictures of most of them, but the ones I've highlighted there are the Gamorrean Guard and the Klaatu, because they're sort of some of the characters that are pretty cool, but never really get that much individual merchandise. All the other ones like Yoda and Vader and the Troopers and Wookiee and stuff like that, Leia and C-3PO, they get a lot of merchandise, but there's not a lot of love for Klaatu, is there?
On the back of the Gamorrean Guard mug, it should say, "This is what I look like before I've had my morning coffee."
Well, this is what I look like before you put the plug in my bum.
I love it. Very, very cool.
So this is a bit of a tease, because we're coming to the end of tonight's show for next week. You may have noticed that we haven't really gone down the Kenner Toys and action figures path, and there is a lot of them for Return of the Jedi. And I tell you what, there were some amazing adverts and print ads and full-color newspaper pages for Return of the Jedi. And it really is, I guess, like Empire Strikes Back, where the movie splits up into different sort of sections, and each one of those sections is perfect for toy merchandisers to be able to say, okay, we can build a theme around Jabba's palace. So we have the primary characters that everyone will want, then we add all the secondary characters, and thank you, George Lucas, because there's 10 times as many aliens in this as there were in Empire Strikes Back. And then they can do the same thing with the Death Star and all the different troopers that they added to this movie, and to Endor and all the different Ewoks. So there's a few different newspaper ads that are a teaser to what we're going to be looking at next week.
So originally our presentation was a lot longer for tonight, and we have now hit 10 o'clock, and we don't want to rush through the next segment, so we're just going to stop it right here. There were other things. So next week, what'll probably happen is we'll probably shorten some of the other segments, and that way we can make the Jedi thing longer because we want to get through it all within a lot of time. And admittedly, to be fair, we had a lot of stuff to discuss at the start, so we chewed up into our own time. So it's our own fault for it.
The other thing is, if anyone goes back and looks through the galleries that we put up on the Sci-Fi Zone page, often when we do these presentations, because they're blowing out too long, we'll cut out a couple of the pictures, and you can always go back and you might discover some bonus stuff that we had prepared that we didn't present on the show. So you can always go back and see some of those other slides with other merchandise later.
And not only that, Hawkeye apparently is on Disney Plus, and everybody's busting their chops to go and watch that. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right. So for that in mind, we were actually going to buzzle off, and we will be back obviously next week for discussing more Return of the Jedi stuff, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you do actually have a Return of the Jedi collectibles, make sure you leave them all mint in box, like your ice cream.
Or rip them off the card.
Don't do it.
Star Wars, more than a movie, a force. A screen explosion that catapulted us from our seats and sent us reeling into space. A single story that spawned a saga, spanned a generation, and shuttled Kenner sails high into a galaxy far, far away. Then came The Empire Strikes Back. When the Star Wars saga and Kenner sails continued, the Force grew. But the rebels fought against fate. Too late. Darth Vader's victory vanquished their hopes.
Put Captain Solo in the cargo hold.
Or so it seemed. At last, that battle's past. The Alliance is back, bent on revenge in Return of the Jedi. A brand new movie. A brand new Kenner collection for 1983. Yes, the biggest blockbuster yet is out in May. And from the looks of it, our heroes aren't about to meet defeat. Kenner knows the Force is one that few can master. Like our rebel friends, we've watched our foes. Now, we're ready to unchain the power that is ours alone. We'll swallow the competition whole once our story's told. With over $25 million in advance bookings alone, the excitement's growing. Will Han remain solo when he rejoins the fray and keeps the Empire at bay? Who does Leia really love?
I love you.
I know. Is the notorious Darth Vader really the father of Luke Skywalker? We all want the answers, but while we wait and wonder, let's reveal what else is in store. Kenner's roaring to the fore, out to grab the market with a $12 million advertising blitz. Parker Brothers is adding $7 million more. With Lucasfilm's additional $12 million for the new movie and a $9 million Coke and Burger King promotion nationwide, you can count on over $40 million in all. The Force is with us, and that's a fact. Rentals of the new Star Wars movie cassette proved it. We'll captivate millions more customers and fans, with promotions planned for every season starting in the spring with a new free figure, 9 Num. He's Lando's co-pilot, plus a sweepstakes. Kenner will make it the biggest in the history of the industry, with a universe of television, print, and point-of-sale support, not to mention word of mouth. Millions upon millions of children will know about the sweepstakes and storm into stores to participate. What's more, all winners of this promotion will be invited with their families to the gala previews of Return of the Jedi. There'll be even more movie footage commercials on network TV in 1983, plus a micro collection, a unique new world for Star Wars collectors. It's a staggering sales story. Starring more products, more commercials, more support than anyone in any galaxy can remember.
It is the future, you see.
Come what might, a stunning victory is in sight. Kenner and the Alliance is out to rout the enemy force. Our rebels won't tire till they see the last of the Empire. So be there, because the future is ours.
Anything?
So thanks to everyone who hung around. That was a little bit too much to show in our main presentation, but that was an internal Kenner advertising promo that I had never seen before, and I don't think many people know about. So have a good night. Thanks for hanging out to the end. That's a special bonus for you guys.
See you guys. Take care.